What's up?
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. So, what's your opinions regarding the conflict?
It's a little mixed. First of all, are you Israeli?
Hmm.
Okay, great. So, I'm a little bit confused and but a little bit hopeful, but not hopeful. I have mixed emotions about it. I don't think it's really going to get that far. Um,
You mean the peace deal?
yeah,
Hmm.
just for the fact that we know we can't really trust Hamas to do what they're supposed to do. So, I don't really know what's going on. It seems like there's something going on behind the scenes with the Arab countries um, that they're pressuring Hamas to agree. But so far, Hamas is not agreeing to disarm. They publicly are still saying that they're not agreeing to disarm. So I don't know how this is going to work.
Yeah, I definitely agree on that. And you can't really trust the Arab countries as well because they also have vested interests with Hamas. Qatar has supplied Hamas with millions, if not billions, of dollars over the years. So it's like not really a trustworthy ally, in my opinion.
Exactly.
But I'm really hopeful it will work out. I think they have a genuine problem currently with retrieving the bodies because it's a logistic problem because, they're crushed under buildings and stuff. But regarding the disarmament of Hamas, I don't believe it will happen. It's an impossible task to disarm them, really.
Right.
And even
Like,
if it succeeds, it's simply a new group will pop up, and we can't really trust the new group because the population there is literally from age zero trained to hate us.
exactly. But the plan is to stop that. But I don't know how you stop that when it's already embedded in the people's minds. Like, that's why I'm a proponent of just getting everybody out and stay out because I don't think it's fixable from the people that are there.
Yeah, I mean, I was in the 7th October Museum, and I saw they were literally reading in school Mein Kampf. It's crazy, it's insane.
Right.
Uh,
So that's why Trump is totally unpredictable, and because in the beginning he was with Bibi with getting rid of all of them into third countries and just expelling all of them and not having them come back. And now all of a sudden he realizes that he has to make a deal with the Arab countries, and the Arab countries won't agree to that. So now he's changed his position and said, no, now they don't have to all leave. They can come back. They can leave and come back. But Israel is still going to be in control of who comes back. So I think that's something. But it's just weird how it all came about. Um,
I definitely agree with you. I mean, the major issue is always with the supposed allies we're making a deal with. It's insane. It's like making a deal. Like if I fight, for example, I don't know, when I was a kid, I used to fight a lot at school. If I fight with someone at school, and I need to make a deal with the parents of the kid I fought with, like
exactly.
it doesn't make any sense.
And so, can I ask you, where do you stand about, like, are you pro BB, against BB? Were you protesting?
Uh, I'm pro certain aspects of Bibi, not all of them. I think he's a good leader in general. He has some issues. I don't see it's a choice between Bibi and completely incompetent people. So in my opinion, he's our best choice right now. I don't see anyone more competent than him in most of the regards that matter to me. But the fact that 7th October happened under him matters a lot. It shows also a certain aspect of lack of preparedness. I mean,
Well, it wasn't just all BB. Like,
no, completely agree with you. But if he didn't trust the head of our Shin Bet of our security agency, he should have replaced him. Like, he's the boss. You don't trust that guy. You don't trust Unenbao. You should replace him.
well, he finally did, and then you find out how hard it was. Like,
Yeah,
he got
yeah.
stopped at every step of the way from the Attorney
I
General
agree. I agree. But
and the Supreme
if it's
Court.
hard, it doesn't mean it shouldn't be like he was clearly. I mean, the incompetence here is not on Bibi's part; it's on the Shin Bet part, on the Shabak. But he knew, and he had issues with this specific person even before October 7th, which because he like before Bibi there was Yair Lapid, and Yair Lapid elected this specific head of security agency, and he simply chose to ignore his previous issues with him, which is a big problem in my opinion. Because if you don't get along with the head of your security agency, it's a big problem. And the incompetence on their part is crazy.
Right. But again, it's like impossible to change anything. Every time BB tries to change something, the left, they just go crazy and they
Yeah,
threaten to shut the whole country down, and then they put in all kinds of petitions to the Supreme Court to stop everything. I could see why uh, he would choose not to do that.
yeah,
I
I
mean, because
agree
it's
with you
just
on
him
that. I
against
agree with you on that.
everybody.
I agree with you on that. But I also think it's a problem. Like they didn't really do a proper investigation for the October 7, like what happened. I'm sure they will do in the future, but he surely has a certain part of the blame, but not enough for me to disqualify him as the most qualified candidate, in my opinion. It's simply because me and my family were voting for Bibi for many years, and there is a bit of part of personal betrayal from this, because he's always speaking about his security is the strongest, so a lot of Bibi voters feel personally betrayed. Despite that, I will still vote for Bibi in the next elections.
I totally get it. I totally understand because it was part of this whole mentality that not only Bibi had, but everybody had, that just try to do the minimum that we can do to keep things quiet. And I could see that it was just a matter of time. Everybody, there was warnings for years and years saying, you know, something's got to change, or it's going to just all blow up eventually. And we finally got to that point. October 7th happened. And people on the outside, I want to say, don't understand that part of it. They don't understand what was happening internally the years leading up to October 7th. And it really irritates me when the people that are protesting against Bibi don't seem to acknowledge that part either. That it was
the media here has a huge part of it. The main media channels are spreading propaganda, anti-Bibi propaganda 24/7. It's insane. Like you can't watch the news without. They even didn't praise him like for the deal. They tried to praise only Trump, like completely Trump for the deal. That's where they're. It's insane.
I know, and they're trying to say, well, we could have had this deal, you know,
many years, like a year ago. Yeah, I know.
And that's not right either. So, and they're completely not giving, taking accountability for Hamas's actions or inactions.
You know, it's so similar. It's so similar to what's happening in the U.S. with the media, with CNN and with the ABC. Like it's crazy. It's the same with MSNBC. Like they're also spreading propaganda anti-Trump 24/7.
Exactly. Yes. So I'm American, so I totally understand that there are direct parallels between what's happening with Trump and what's happening with Bibi. But yeah, you know what's funny is because there's this anti-Israel on the right who are not like outright neo-Schmazis, but like, you know, like Tucker Carlson and all these Candace Owens that are like starting to be anti-Israel now. They're spouting the same talking points as the left here in Israel. And then I don't think they realize that there is a left and a right here in Israel. They just lump Israel.
Yeah, they believe it's an entity, like we are all one entity.
Exactly. And that's the one thing that irritates me the most is like, you don't understand. There's a deep state here in Israel, just like there's a deep state in America. And you guys are all against the deep state and the left and everything happening
The left is brainwashed to believe that the deep state is the gatekeeper of democracy in Israel, which is absolutely insane.
All right. Oh, yeah.
That's how I view it.
So were you personally affected by October 7th? Did you know anybody?
Yeah, I had a few friends who got injured, not got blessed, not died. And also, I personally got injured in my first before October 7 in the army, so I don't serve. Right, I served in search and rescue before that, but I got injured, so I didn't serve in Gaza. But I have all my friends besides me served in Gaza, and they were all affected.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we have 2 more people that are requesting here. Before I request anybody else up, I want to finish. I like to do one-on-ones. I don't like a whole panel with.
Yeah, no problem.
So I'm gonna. The people that are in the waiting. I'm just talking to them. Don't worry. I want to talk to you too, but I just want to do one at a time.
Yeah, no worries. I'll stay here. Interesting. Thank you. Interesting conversation.
Okay. So if you want to stay there, you can stay there.
I'll just mute myself.
And let's see. Bring some other people up. Shalom.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, so I just wanted to voice some disagreements that I had with you. I was listening to you for like past 5 minutes, let's say. So the first disagreement I had with you is about the idea that Bibi didn't fire the head of the Shin Bet because it was hard to fire him. He didn't fire him because he actually liked him before the 7th of October. He was actually praising him publicly for his conduct before the 7th of October. So he showed no interest in firing him before that, which is the reason why he didn't fire him. He only retroactively said that he objected to his position, to him being in a position of authority, only after the 7th of October happened, and it was convenient to put the blame on him. So I think that's the reason.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I assume that you're against Bibi then?
Yeah, like I wouldn't vote for him.
No, okay. Well, so who did you vote for in the last election?
I didn't vote.
You didn't vote, okay.
No.
So why didn't you vote?
Well, I feel like there's no leaders that represents my ideology, so.
Okay, and what can I ask what that is? Because I really want to know. I want to get who's here in Israel and what they think. So
Yeah, sure, I'm on the liberal left.
okay, but there's plenty of people on the liberal left.
No, I don't think so. There are plenty of people on the social left, but not much on the liberal left.
Okay, not the center.
Like what?
Like I don't even know. I don't even pay attention to the whose party is where. But Lapid, you don't like Lapid?
Well, no, he's not liberal at all. He's like far socialist. He's like far socialist.
Bennett.
Bennett is right wing. He's not leftist.
Well, no, he
Like
was showing he was. Everybody thought he was, but then when he became the prime minister, he became like the center liberal and wanted everybody joining in. So he was not really right at all.
Yeah, I see your point, but the thing is, like, different people can interpret his conduct in a different way. But the fact of the matter is, he identifies as a right wing. Most Israelis perceive him as to be right wing. Most people who identify as leftists don't vote for him. Usually, people who identify as right wingers vote for him. So I would consider him right wing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, as far as the Israel-Palestine situation, you were for a two-state solution?
I still am.
You still am?
Yeah, under the right conditions.
But those conditions are never going to happen.
I disagree. Why do you think they're never going to happen?
I think if you live here long enough, you should know the answer to that. I don't understand why you don't. Like, what are you waiting for?
Like, what conditions am I waiting for?
Yes.
So I would say primarily the damn, this word kills me. De-radicalization of the Palestinians. So it's a hard word to pronounce.
Okay. How do you think that's going to happen without Israel being in total control of the land?
Well, Israel can be temporarily in a temporary occupation in control of the land, but eventually I think once they de-radicalize the Palestinians, they should give them sovereignty. It's very simple.
Okay, so do you believe that the Palestinians, quote unquote Palestinians, are people?
Like a people as in what? A nation?
Yes, an ethnicity?
Yeah. No.
Okay, so an ethnicity doesn't, if they're not an ethnicity, then they're not entitled to their own land.
Are people only entitled to land based on ethnicity?
I think so.
And why is that?
Because that's what makes you indigenous to the land. You have to have a connection through something other than just being there.
What about like national aspirations?
Their national aspirations preclude having Jews not having any national aspirations.
But that could be solved through the means of de-radicalization, which I already addressed.
Okay. This is what I think, this is my theory. I've only lived here 11 years. I'm not Israeli. I haven't grown up here. But it seems to me that I feel there's a disconnect between living with Arabs here in Israel, Israel proper, the Arab Israelis, and then dealing with the Arabs outside in the West Bank and Gaza. I think they're two separate groups. Do you not agree? Because we're not fighting. We're not fighting.
Separating what way?
Because the Arab Israelis they grow up among us. We don't have a problem with them being radicalized. We don't have a problem with them being radicalized, right? Because they're educated.
I would have a problem with them being radicalized.
Do you think some of the Arab Israelis are radicalized?
Most of them, definitely. I think they're closer ideologically to Palestinians in the West Bank than they are to Jews here in Israel.
Okay. So if we're already in control of the Arab Israelis, and if you think they're radicalized, how are we going to de-radicalize them?
Okay, so I'll clarify my position. I don't think the right method of de-radicalization was properly applied here in Israel as well, which is why that it didn't work. But had we applied the right means, the Arabs in Israel would be de-radicalized and the Arabs in the West Bank. Okay, so how do we do that? Well, I would support. Are you familiar with an organization called INSS?
No.
It's like an Israeli, I guess, study group. Maybe it's not the right word. It's like it's a coalition of academics that kind of research politics in Israel. They generally recommend what they call the Danish model. It's a model for de-radicalization of radical Islam that was applied in Europe and seemed to be pretty effective. Also, data suggests that it was pretty effective in de-radicalizing radical Muslims. And I think we can apply it here in this country as well and we'll produce similar results. All right, I would be interested in that. But to do that, I'm thinking in order for them to be not radicalized and happy, we would have to not be a Jewish country. That's what they're all saying. They don't want to have a Jewish country. They want to have an equal country with everybody has equal rights. But that includes us not having our own Jewish country. Yeah, sure. Some of them do, maybe even the majority. But when I speak of de-radicalization, I speak exactly about changing this type of worldview. I think they're going through some kind of brainwashing to hate Jews fundamentally from a fundamentalist worldview. And I think we can have some kind of counter brainwashing in some sort of re-education camps to stop this kind of ideology and then have a peaceful solution. And then I wouldn't see any problem with giving them sovereignty on the places in Israel that they already live in anyway.
Okay. I like what I'm hearing. I like to hear, different perspectives or whatever. But ultimately, I want to say, and I'm gathering you're not religious at all. You're secular.
No, I'm practicing Jew.
You're really? Okay, that's interesting.
Like, admittedly, I could be a better Jew. Like, I'm not Orthodox, but yeah.
Okay, so that's interesting that you have that concept, because I'm religious, but I'm taking it from the Torah specifically. Like past history shows us that when the Israelites first came in here, Hashem has said that we have to get rid of everybody, and the land is just for us.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so I'm kind of like under that perception that like we cannot. It's almost like, I don't know if you read the Quran or whatever, but it's almost like the opposite of the Quran, where the Quran proposes that Muslims are like superior to everybody, and then everybody is below them as a dhimmi, a second-class citizen.
Yeah,
in this land, I feel like this land has to stay holy for the Jewish people, and it can't be diluted by non-Jewish people. No matter, I believe in equal rights and everything, but I believe that we still need to keep this land holy. And I feel like the reason why we're having problems is because we haven't collectively understood this. That's what I'm thinking. That's my theory. I could be wrong.
Well, first of all, I think keeping this land holy in the way you speak of it, I think is mutually exclusive with having equal rights. Because people don't just want to have individual equal rights, they also want to have like national equal rights. Like, for example, the Arab minority in Israel has a problem with the fact they're not being represented in the Israeli flag, in the Israeli national anthem, right? And they feel like Israel doesn't include them as equal members of the country, and because it primarily has like Jewish symbolic signs and words and stuff. So I think those are mutually exclusive. I think the only solution, which is also supported by the fact that I'm religious, is that I don't think non-Jews should have citizenship in Israel. Instead, we should give another country for the non-Jews, or they can live in Israel but not as exactly equals. They will have equal individual rights but not equal national rights. So that's my position. Yeah.
Well, that's great. Like that, so that kind of aligns with my view. But then that kind of contradicts your idea of trying to de-radicalize the Arabs. They're not going to be de-radicalized under that scenario. They're not.
I think once you offer them to have sovereignty and have their own Muslim caliphate or whatever Muslim utopia they want, I think they're going to be pretty happy about it, and they will be willing to concede many of the positions and demands they currently require.
Where are you going to put them?
I'm going to leave them exactly where they are already living. I'll just give them sovereignty over their own selves. Like, they already live in Israel, they take up territory, right?
Yeah.
Right. So you leave them exactly in the territories that they have. Maybe leave them a little bit extra territory, for future, demographic growth, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you just tell them, okay, you can control yourself. Ideally, if you de-radicalize, you can have your own army, whatever, run your own politics, all that.
Oh, I really think that's bad. I don't think that's ever happened anywhere Muslims have been. Like, I don't think you can just, you have to get rid of the Quran in order to do that. You have to get out of every Muslim's mind. You wouldn't be able to have a mosque, because you can't get away from the fact that the Quran specifically talks about how the Jews mistreated Muhammad and that they're just bad, and we're going to kill them all at the end of time, at the end times. Like that's what every Muslim is taught. Like I don't know.
Yeah, sure. So I disagree with it, but even if I grant the premise for your argument, right? They're just that the Quran just teaches to hate Jews and all Muslims understand the Quran in the same way, I'll just grant it for the sake of the argument, right? The part that you're missing about my argument is that they don't have to like us to agree to stop killing us, right? Sorry, I probably can't use this word on TikTok. To stop unaliving us. So as long as they agree to stop unaliving us and they run their own state and
but it's never been about that. You don't understand. It's never, if they wanted just their own state to run themselves, Oslo would have worked, Gaza would have worked, we would have had two states already. They don't want it. They never wanted it. Yasser Arafat, the PLO was established before we even had anybody in the West Bank. They denied sovereignty over the West Bank because Jordan had it. They wanted Israel proper. They've always wanted that. If you leave them in here, that gives them a hope that they can have it all still.
But I agree with all of it, but it still doesn't engage with my argument, because you gave this land and this sovereignty. Well, with Oslo Accord, it was partial sovereignty, it wasn't even full sovereignty, but you gave it to already radical people. You kind of put the cart before the horses. I think you should first de-radicalize them and then give them sovereignty. If you will give sovereignty to radical people, of course they're going to use this land to import weapons and fight you. That makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's a good thought, but
it's an amazing thought. I should be the Prime Minister of Israel, I think.
I don't think it's realistic. I think it's fantasy, because otherwise, if you think about it, all the Muslims outside Israel would look at the situation here in what's going on here and be against all the violence and everything that's happening against Israel, and they would be against all the terrorism, and all the Muslims, the 2 billion Muslims, would be with Israel to de-radicalize the Muslims that are here. That's not happening. We have 2 billion Muslims. They all are for the Palestinian quote unquote people because they believe that it's their land.
Well, sure, but just to give you an analogy, Jews used to believe that you should stone gay people, right? But we don't do it anymore. Like, people can change the perspective on how they view religion, how they interpret religion, how they want to address religion. Like, it used to be, there used to be a death penalty for giving loans in between Jews. It's illegal according to Hebrew law, right? But nowadays, even Orthodox Jews give and take out loans. They have bank accounts and all that. So people change the way they understand religion.
I understand that, but actually I'm against that, because the Muslims are actually doing something right about that. They're still not giving loans with interest. Like, that's another reason why they are against the Jews, is because of this. The Torah specifically states that you're not supposed to charge interest, and the Muslims are not doing that, and they have all kinds of financial laws that allow them to get around that. But the Jews somehow are not doing that.
So besides the factual disagreement that, many Muslim countries do give and take out loans, it's just factually not true. Some, very few countries absolutely ban loans. It does exist. But do you think it's a good thing? Like, we shouldn't give and take out loans nowadays?
Not with interest. I mean, there are people, there are Jews here in Israel, for sure, that loan to other Jews without interest within the Haredim or world.
It's almost non-existent. It would be basically charity work.
Well, that's the way it's supposed to be.
Well, you could argue that, but then we will become a failed economy just like all those Muslim countries.
I don't think so.
I mean, it could be demonstrated factually. Like, if you don't have loans, how can you boost the growth of your economy without taking loans from the Federal Reserve and stuff?
No, I'm not talking about loans. I'm talking about interest on the loans.
Yeah, sure. So if you don't take loans from the Federal Reserve without interest, how would you boost the growth of your economy? What reason would people have to give you loans? What motivation will they have if they don't gain money from it?
I don't think it's really important to think about things that way, because that's not the way it's portrayed in the Torah. It's just an outgrowth of doing for others that you would want have done to you, and then in return Hashem blesses you, and it just happens. Like, I don't know how to explain it any other way economically.
It's actually, like, from my perspective, actually an anti-Jewish position, because it undermines a moral grounding for the reason why it was forbidden to give and take out loans. Because the Torah explains why it forbids loans. Do you know the reason? Like, it tells us what was the moral grounding for forbidding loans. Sorry.
So that you wouldn't exploit people.
Right, so you wouldn't exploit people. Why is it bad to exploit people? Because it causes them financial harm, right?
Right.
Right. So the moral grounding is to minimize financial harm to other people. But it's never to, like, absolutely diminish it completely, especially considering the fact that you need to fund an army to defend your people, right, obviously, and you need to boost your economy to compete with other nations so they will not outgrow you and destroy you. So it has to be also pragmatic. So actually what you end up doing, if you follow the law to the word, instead of, like, understanding the moral grounding for it and following the moral grounding, is that you destroy your own nation against the will of God. So it's kind of anti-Jewish in my perspective.
No, because if we had a temple, the temple treasury took care of those things.
Yeah, and how our economy did at that time.
I don't know. I'm assuming good. If the people were doing
it wasn't
good.
great. It wasn't great.
I don't think that should be our standard of what's good or not, whether we have a GDP above other nations or not. We're not supposed to be like the other nations.
Yeah, but you do realize that if you're a failed nation, you can defend even your own people, and then you make
wouldn't be
another
a
moral
failed
decision as an
nation.
entailment of that, right? Like when you make the
I
choice.
don't think the Muslim nations are failed because they're not charging interest. They're failed because Islam is just not correct the way to live.
No, they literally don't get investments into their country because other countries don't want to invest there because they don't get interest.
But Middle Eastern countries are one of the most wealthiest countries. Saudi Arabia, Qatar, like UAE.
Yeah, you can have loans in those countries. You can have loans in Qatar and Saudi Arabia. They have international investments.
Right,
People
so
invest in loans. They give loans to other people as well, of course.
okay, so I'm gonna have to agree to disagree. I don't think that's the reason why certain states are failing or not. I mean, look at Iran. Like they're failing because they're funding terrorism all over the place. That's why they're failing.
That's not why their economy is failing. Like they don't invest that much money into terrorism, but they're failing because of plenty of other reasons, like because of diplomatic disputes, internal disputes, and such. People just don't want to invest in the country because it's unstable politically. But again, it all comes down to the fact that you want other countries to invest in you. You want to be able to give and take out loans with interest to take care of your economy, so you can take care of your own people. So it's not really pragmatic to follow this law to the world, but rather we should focus on the moral grounding of the law and try to minimize financial harm to other Jews, and so on. And most rabbis understand it in the same way, by the way. That's like the rabbinic consensus about the idea.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's why they legalize giving and taking out loans. You have the concept, I don't know what the English term for it, but in Hebrew we say hitel iska. It's a halacha that allows you basically to freely basically give and take out loans nowadays.
And you're talking about interest, though, not just loans.
With interest, yes. Holding bank accounts, when you hold the bank account, the bank uses your money to give and take out loans with or without your consent.
I know that there's a story about during a time when the time escapes me right now, but every 7 years you're supposed to like release people from their loans.
Yes.
And there was during the Second Temple where they were not wanting to release the people and not giving out loans when it came close to the 7 years. And the Torah specifically says, don't do that. And yet they were having trouble doing that. And then I think Hillel maybe came up with a situation where they found a workaround.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. But let me ask you then, how did they prevent people from abusing this law? Like if someone will take loans which last longer than 7 years, how would they avoid people abusing this law, do you think? They were unaliving these people.
I don't know. That's
they weren't abusing them well. If they were abusing those laws, I can tell you that much. They weren't just a bunch of suckers saying, okay, I guess someone took a loan and he doesn't want to give me, and God says I should forsake the loan, and forsake the interest, I guess I'll just lose a bunch of money. They weren't saying that. They were getting pretty violent about it.
I think I don't know. I don't really want to get too far into this discussion.
That's fine. We can move on to something else. That's fine.
Yeah, I wanted to address something.
Okay.
I wanted to address another problem that is going on in Europe, for example. Over there are now the Muslim immigrants coming to Europe don't have any past over there or history over there, and they want to take over. They want to change the religion. They want to make a caliphate in England, in France, in Germany, in other places. So this is the situation. Islam is becoming the greatest religion in the world, and we cannot resolve the problem here in Israel. As long as we can go on fighting, it's not going to help. Because if we do have another nationality living with us in the same country, maybe today they have all kind of economic interests not to revolt. But in 2021 there was Shomer Homot, and they revolted against Israel, and there were riots, and there were people killed. So we cannot trust the people here, the Muslim minority here in Israel. It's in a kind of way they were educated and filtered here, but in many other respects they are still loyal to their Palestinian identity or to their Muslim identity, and it's very hard to achieve a peace agreement with them. So I don't see in the long run, I don't see something that can resolve the problems here in the Middle East. Even any peace agreement with them, according to the Islamic law, is just a temporary agreement. It's not a long-lasting agreement. So there is nothing you can trust. We have peace with Egypt, and they armed themselves. And we had very good relations with Turkey, and we had very good relations with Iran. And once there is a revolution, or once there is a dictator coming up, everything blows apart. So we cannot trust them.
And I have a follow-up question.
Sorry?
I'm saying I actually have a follow-up question.
Yeah, sure.
What you said. Like, based on the same logic, like if we can't trust them because they committed atrocities against Jews, right?
Yeah.
Based on the same logic, should we trust the Germans based on what they did historically?
I will tell you something. In Germany, it was not a religious ideology. it was a national ideology, and it's something else. When it's religious ideology, when somebody is a religious fanatic, you cannot talk to him.
What if someone's national fanatic?
I told you, if there is something that can be, you can use education in order to redefine his thoughts, his ideology, then you can do something about it. When it's so deep, when it's religious fanatic, it's not very much you can do.
Wait, so you can use education to diminish national fanaticism, but not to diminish religious fanaticism?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes. I think one of the problems of the Middle East is the reproducing. You know, they have so many children, and they're sending their children to the Western countries. They cannot bring them up economically. They cannot.
I just want to understand why can you change one but not the other?
Because this is another type. It doesn't have to do anything with very deep religious feelings.
Yeah, it has very deep national feelings. Like, what's the difference?
It's not the same. There are many.
I guess it's not the same, but what is the difference?
There are many more shaheeds, people that are willing to be martyrs, to give their life for religious reason than for national reasons.
In Germany, there are plenty of people who are willing to give their lives for national reasons.
Yeah. And this is only a few years, and the war, when the war did not succeed, many had deep remorses. Even general,
because we de-radicalized them, right? They didn't just come to those conclusions themselves, right? We had to intervene artificially, and
we did not intervene. The Americans intervened. The Marshall, how it called? I forgot the name of that. Anyway, the Americans intervened then, and they denazified the German society. But it wasn't so deep, you know. It's like in the communist era.
It wasn't deep. You don't think their feelings were deep about Jews?
No.
Yeah, anti-Semitism.
It wasn't that deep. They massacred 6 million Jews.
Anti-Semitism is a disease that is also has also very deep religious feelings and thoughts and stereotypes. It's very deep inside them, so it has many roots.
I want to just step in for a second. As far as I know, what happened was there was denazification, but there was also, after the war, we went in and unalived literally hundreds and thousands of people from the Schmatzi party. So there was nobody left feeling that strongly about it. And then the people that were left, that we denazified, we were trying to shame them, and they were felt bad. They felt
Actually,
bad that they had been complicit in. They had actually some moral sympathy and felt bad about it. That's never going to happen with Muslims, with Islam. Never.
Because why?
Against Jews, because we're Jews. That's it.
Yeah, we're Jews.
It's not only because we're Jews.
Like, it's not only the distinction. Like, saying because they're Muslim doesn't really explain what the difference is.
Any people that are fanatic religious or religious fanatics, they are very impossible to talk to.
Yeah, I think the first time, but what's the difference? Like, when I ask, okay, what's the difference between religious fanaticism and national fanaticism?
It's a lot deeper. The religious feelings are a lot deeper than national feelings.
So when you
once you achieve your goal, for example, on creating a state or conquering something, then you can cool down.
Extinguish Jewish people, to drive them to extinction.
These were
seems pretty deep to me, man. I don't know.
These were not only nationalistic thoughts. I told you, anti-Semitism has a lot deeper roots in religious roots and stereotypic roots, and they blame the Jews for destroying Germany.
What do you mean?
So there are many things that were not in common with the nowadays Muslims.
Things are not common. I'm just asking how come it's not deep enough if they try to drive Jews to extinction.
First of all,
what could be more deeper than that?
First of all, it was a secret. Let's say it was kind of a secret mission that not everybody took part in it in Germany. There are many Germans that did not know about the extermination and about the camps and so forth. So they knew they're going to conquer Russia. They considered the Russians also inferior. They considered the Poles inferiors. Yes, but they wanted to conquer them and to enjoy the fruit of subjugations, to subjugate the Russians, the Poles, and others.
So not everybody knew about the concentration camps, but everybody knew, for example, about the Nuremberg laws. Those were public. All the discriminatory laws against Jews were known by everybody. They knew they weren't treated well.
They considered...
The thing is, most of them ideologically, even according to polling data, if you look at what they believe, most of them were completely fine with Jews being unalived in mass numbers. They didn't care. So again, like, what could be deeper than this type of ideology? I still don't get it. Like, Muslims...
You know that in the United States...
Wait, hold on. Yeah. Muslims, do you realize Muslims never committed an atrocity with such extent against Jewish people, like secular Germans did?
Yes, because they did not have the opportunity to do this. But look, for example, what the Ottoman Turks did against the Armenians. They genocided more than 1.5 million people, and they were the first example of genocide.
Yeah,
So,
why did the Ottomans genocide the Armenians? Do you know?
sorry?
Do you know why the Ottomans genocide the Armenians?
Yeah, they considered them an enemy. They wanted to uproot them from Armenia.
It was because of national worldview, right?
Yeah, but also they
So it's
they were Christians. The Armenians were Christians, and they, as Muslims, could not tolerate a religious minority.
No, it wasn't because they were Christian. It wasn't.
Yes, of course. Yes, of course.
You can read their own documents. It wasn't. It was because they thought that the Armenians would join the Russians in the Second World War, or sorry, the First World War.
Yeah, but it was also because they were Christians, and because they were afraid. Just a second, and they were afraid of an uprising in the Ottoman Empire.
How come they didn't genocide other Christian minorities in the Ottoman Empire? In that case, why specifically the Armenians?
Because, as you said, they wanted to join the Russians against them.
But it's not about the religion.
Yes, of course. It was also because of the religion.
Then why didn't they genocide other Christians?
If they were Muslims, they would have not genocided them.
Based on what? If it was about joining the Russians, what does it
Because
matter?
there was no other precedent. There was no other precedent that occurred besides the Armenians in that time. And you know what wrote Sarah Aronson? Sarah Aronson wrote in 1916, I believe. She wrote that she's afraid that the Ottomans will not do the same to the Yishuv in Israel. This is what she wrote.
Because of national worldviews. It had nothing to do with religion.
Yes, no, it was also, you try to divide nationalism of religion.
And like reading their own documents, like they explain what you realize it's like a historical consensus. It's not like in a disputed manner. Like they explain their own documents why they genocided the Armenians. Like they tell you, we thought they were going to join the Russians, they're going to fight against us. They didn't say anything about Christianity. You just made it up. I don't know where you got this from. If you had any reliable
source, there were so many other nationalities. There were other nationalities that fought against the Ottomans, and they were not genocided. No, they saw them as rivals. They saw them as...
Which nationality, which was part of the Ottoman Empire, fought for the Russians? Give me one example.
Well, I don't think this is the topic here, but anyway, I told you, religious...
That's exactly the topic here. You're talking about the Armenians as an example of religious genocide, but I'm saying it wasn't a religious genocide. And I'm asking you for an example of them doing the same to another religious group. You don't have one. So it kind of undermines your...
Cool. The Ottomans, I told you, because they were Christians, they were executed, they were exterminated.
Yeah, you told me.
This is the truth.
You just didn't give any evidence.
You can look it up. I don't have here. I'm walking right now, and I don't have now the where to show it to you.
Yeah, all the Ottoman documents. Do you realize that all the Ottoman documents don't mention anything about genociding the Armenians because of the religion? Do you realize?
Okay, I'll look it up for you, and I will show you. Okay. Anyway, we talked about the religious feelings towards national feelings. As I told you, these are very, very deep. You cannot compare somebody, for example, Schmittler, compared to someone that believes that Allah is the creator. Yes, there were people dying that were going to die for Schmittler and for the Schmatzi party.
I still didn't hear a good argument for why one's feelings are deeper than the other. Still, just an assertion, but no evidence at all.
The evidence is very clear. There are more martyrs. There are more people trying to commit suicide or give their life. Everything that happened in 9/11, everything that happens in Europe, everything has to do with radical religion, with fanatism. And this is not nationalism. How many nationals in France or nationals in England are going to commit suicide attacks? Or are going to...
Quite a bit of nationals, both in Britain and in France, are actually neo-Nazis, and they...
Yeah, so how many of them committed, I don't know how many terrorist attacks against Muslims or committed suicide, or I don't know.
Well,
most of them are Muslims. Most of the terrorists in the world are Muslims.
I'll give you examples. If you just let me speak, I'll give you examples. Like they committed a massive terrorist attack by doing the Holocaust, where far more people were involved, far more people were unalived. It was way bigger than anything the Muslims did, and you just want to brush it off and hand wave it away, as if it's not like a major counter evidence to everything that you're saying.
When? What was this terrorist attack?
The Holocaust in 1940 to 1945.
The Holocaust. But once again, we're talking about we're talking about something, they saw it not only as a nationalistic threat.
You want other examples?
Just 1 second. They saw it also as something that is against the race. They thought the Jews are...
what has this to do with what we're talking about? I'm asking why it's not that deep.
Once again,
about the race of the person, right? You can have deep feelings
because the Schmatzi party existed only for a few years. Only for about 20 years. Islam exists from 622 till 2026. Okay, so it has a lot of deeper roots. You cannot compare a party, even the most extreme party that ever existed, to a religion. It doesn't have such deep roots. Okay, if we talk about the Inquisition, if we talk about Catholicism, if we talk about Islam or even Judaism, so they have other things in common, and not the things that, for example, communism.
But that has nothing to do with what we're talking about. We're talking about deep feelings, right? I'm asking, why can't you have like a new ideology in which you have deep feelings? How is it mutually exclusive?
Because these things, for example, communism was also a nationalistic in Soviet Union, for example. It was also very nationalistic, but it didn't go to the extent of a religion. So people would do many things for the country, would even in the world they would even sacrifice themselves. But later on, they tried to live together all the nationalities. You know,
they were killing more people than any religious conflict. So it seems even deeper. That's a good example of my argument.
But this
That's a good example of my argument.
Stalin, for example, he ordered the killing or the unaliving of millions of people, not the Russian people, not the Soviet people. He had special groups or special people that dealt with all kinds of uprisings or to take people out. It was not the Soviet or the Russian people that did this, okay? And also,
who do you think did it?
What?
Who do you think did it, if not the Soviets? Like, who are the men?
Again, he had special troops.
And
like,
who they were? Weren't they Soviet?
He has special troops. It's not something that comes from within. It's not the feelings of the Russians or of the Soviet people or of the other people that were.
No, most Russians supported his regime. Most Russians supported his regime.
I don't know. There was a revolution. You could hardly say everybody supported it. Yes.
No, I can say most supported it. It was a revolution against the dictatorship. Most people didn't support the Tsar of the Russians. Most people supported the Communist Party. Even when the Communist Party fell apart in the 90s, most people still supported it.
I will say again, the difference between nationalism and religious...
Just assert your argument again? Just assert your argument? Without even proving it?
Just one second. The difference between nationalism and religious extremism is that once nationalism arrives or gets its point or its target, then there is a drop of nationalism. In religious targets, they're going on with the religious extremism on, and they want to expand it. They want to export their nationalism and their revolution outside. This is one of the problems.
Did Germany or Russia stop from trying to expand their ideology?
No, but
no,
it was
no, exactly. So that's my point.
It wasn't as deep as religious extremism.
Yeah,
Okay?
but you say it wasn't deep because they didn't try to expand. But when I tell you they did try to expand, you just make a circular argument. Say yes, but because it wasn't that deep. Do you see the circular logic?
Because the people that lived there didn't really believe in this ideology.
According to what? All the
they did not believe in communism. No, most of the people in the Soviet Union did not believe in communism. Most of the people, yes, most of the people in the Soviet Union, of course, most of the people in the Soviet Union wanted to get rid.
Explain based on what? Like my source is polling data. Like people were asked if they support it or not, and all the polling data showed
there was never free elections. There were never free elections.
Over 90% of Russians.
Everybody dreamt. I was born in Romania. Okay, nobody in Romania. It was a communist country. Nobody wanted to live in a communist regime. Nobody.
What does it do with the Soviet Union?
And the Soviet Union was the same because everywhere, it was the same regime. It was a communist regime that was
the same ideology, but it was different regimes, obviously.
No, it was the same. It was a communist regime. Also in Poland, and also in Eastern Germany, and also in other places. Sorry?
Was it part of the Soviet Union?
Who, Romania?
Yeah.
No, it wasn't.
No, it wasn't. Okay, great. So they had different governments?
No, but the Soviet Union imposed communism on Romania, on Poland, on Yugoslavia.
Israel and the United States have also Western ideologies. It doesn't make them the same regime. Do you realize it? Two different regimes can share the same ideology, and there will be different regimes. Right? Like
no, they were the same. They were the same regime. They were indoctrinized by the. They would send commissaries from Soviet Union to Poland, to Yugoslavia, to Czechoslovakia, to other states, and imposed the Soviet building, the Soviet education. Everything was the same.
Yeah. So do you realize most people in the Soviet Union supported the Soviet regime?
And nobody wanted this.
Wait, do you agree with the statement? Most people in the Soviet Union supported the Soviet regime.
No, they did not.
Based on what?
Because they wanted they did an uprising in 1989. They wanted to get rid of communism. Communism was bad.
Most of them didn't want to. They
was bad economically. Was bad in every aspect.
Like the data just shows the exact opposite. Just so you know, when the Soviet Union fell apart,
what are you basing that? There were never free elections. So you cannot say that the people. They tried to get out of the. It's like it's like saying that in North Korea the people agree to the rule of Kim Jong-un. Yes, there are never elections over there. He's a dictator.
The elections weren't democratic, right? Like not everybody voted. They banned if you I don't know what to call it, like.
There were never elections over there. It's like in Syria, there were never elections. What? He was voted by 92%.
I'm talking when the Soviet Union disassembled and they voted in a new president. It wasn't really democratic elections. Like they banned major parts of the country from voting at all about the issue.
The state fell apart. The Soviet Union fell apart.
They chose to disassemble, right? They chose to disassemble because of external pressure. But most people living in the country
because of internal pressure. The Soviet Union had so many debts, and they couldn't handle all their debts.
Then how comes
Gorbachev was the president? And Gorbachev, that was the president of the Soviet Union, saw that everything is falling apart.
Again, what is the source for it? Like, what's the evidence for it?
What do you mean? 1989, everything fell apart. You can read it up.
Yeah, but what is the basis that the people didn't like it? That's my question. You can read the polling data and see that pretty much everybody agrees. And
okay, show me a polling data.
Hold on, stop filibustering. Stop filibustering, because like I want to hone in on this point. Yeah.
Show me the base that people were in favor of the Soviet Union going on as a communist country, or any country in the Eastern Bloc wanted to continue to go on as being a communist country. Nobody wanted this life.
Yeah, you're asserting this, dude. I don't realize when I ask you to prove your point, you just restate your point. That's not a proof of your point. When I ask you, how do you know people didn't support the Soviet Union? And you respond to me, because people didn't support the Soviet Union. So it doesn't actually explain my question or engage with it at all, right? When I ask you, what are the evidence? You say, it's fell apart. Sure, unions can fall apart, even though most people support them. That's not mutually exclusive. So again, what is your evidence? My evidence is extensive polling data that we have about the opinions of the people.
Yeah, show me. Okay, show me the polls.
Okay, look, you type in Google, polling data, support for the Soviet Union, and you'll find it.
Yeah. So what's the support of those who supported the Soviet Union, and who made the polls?
All right. Well, he's looking that up. I would just want to say something. This is just my observation. I don't have any facts or anything to back this up, but my observation with the national movements is that eventually they just die out because they lose support because they don't really achieve lasting success. Like the main leader gets unalived or dies, and there's nothing to replace him. And people start losing interest, or the outcome is not what they expect it to be, and they want to change it to something else.
Or they succeed in their target. For example, I don't want to compare, but for example, the Zionist national movement, once it achieved its movement, okay, there was no, let's say it became something else. Once a national movement achieves its goals, it becomes something else. It becomes a party, or it becomes a leading coalition, but it doesn't go on the same. For example, there were in Italy, there were the Carbonari. There were many national movements during the King Emanuele II in the 19th century when they united, and also in Germany. These movements disappeared once they achieved their goal. It's not the same with the religious movement. They want to, for example, Islam and Christianity want more and more adherence to their faith. They are missionary religions, unlike the Jewish religion that does not have any missionary goals. On the contrary, Jews do not accept easily new adepts to their religion. So it's very different. Islam wants to conquer more and more land and more adepts to their religion, and also do Christians. This is why Christianity was so on such a large scale. They wanted to conquer North America, South America, Africa, and every continent, Australia, and to baptize everybody, all the Aborigines and all the natives, and this was their goal. And in the 20th century, religion began to lose its how do you say its power, and there were so many different currents in Christianity: Protestants, Catholics, evangelicals, Mormons, and others. And after the Second World War, Christianity lost its power. And there was another thing.
Well, now it seems to gain more power again. It seems to rise in popularity again.
Christianity, no.
Yeah, absolutely. And Islam, by the way.
And in Europe, for example, Christianity is losing because the people are becoming more and more individualized. They're doing less and less children.
No, in recent years, more people actually joined Christianity than left. The trend is coming to the game.
Yeah, and they're losing all the family values. And one of the things that happened in Europe was the invention of the birth pill. And the invention of the birth pill, to my knowledge or to my belief, is what caused the fall of Europe and of Christianity. Because once
the birth pill caused the fall of Europe. Okay, so look, all the data shows otherwise. The young generation now becomes more Christian in European countries as they become more radical in their Christian beliefs as well. So there's a shift in the trend.
I don't know where you see that. I've been in Europe many, many times.
I can link you. I can tell you the place where.
On what base? You asked me before. On what base? Show me the base. You went to look up for polls. Where is your?
So let me just real quick look up the source, and I'll tell you where to find it. Okay? Does that sound fair?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so you can keep.
Can't hear you.
Oh, he's muted.
Okay. So the birth pill did not allow the European society to grow because they became more and more interested of their own life, of their own economy. They didn't want to marry, and the society, the European society, became very, very secular. And this is what is going now in Europe. There is no more family. There is no more any root to the country, to the feelings they had before. So this is when the Muslims, which have many, many children, are taking over Europe. And in Israel, for example, Arabs are doing less and less children also because they want to have a better life. They understand that the more children you have, you cannot raise them because it's very difficult if you do not have enough money to raise the children. So they became very individualistic in Israel. So they are turning away from the Palestinian problem. But this is not something that removes them completely, because they still live in families that are rooted in one hamula or in one big family and in one tribe. So they are very connected to the country. Unlike the Jews that live in buildings and they are not related to the country, they are not enough related to the ground. So they are more nationalistic in their view of themselves as Palestinians than Jews, for example, feel that they are related to the ground or to the land as the. Yes.
Yeah, I looked up the study. Do you want to look it up?
Yeah, sure. Read it out. Anyway, what I think should be done is, first of all, the Israeli Arabs want.
Yeah, you wanted the study. I just gave you the study.
Where's the study?
I just named you the study.
I didn't hear it.
He's on mute.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway.
Oh,
yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I guess I'm getting muted once I'm like exiting the TikTok tab, whatever. So, hold on, let me memorize the title so I can tell you, because it mutes me whenever I exit the TikTok tab.
Maybe if you want to type it in the comments, maybe.
Okay, so it's Eastern and Western Europeans differ on religious views. That's what the study is called.
You told me about something. We told about communism, not about.
No. I talked about the rise of Christianity in Europe.
No, we told before. We said before you had the poles of communism.
Yeah,
and now
as well, but there's nothing to do with
I didn't talk about Christianity in the Eastern countries.
What do you mean? We were literally talking about the rise.
I'm talking about
wait,
Christianity.
No, that's
in
not
Western
what happened.
Europe.
Hold on, no.
In Eastern Europe, in Poland,
wait a second, just zip it for a minute. Let me get in a word. We were talking about the rise of Christianity in Europe, right? We were having this conversation. Hold on, stop interrupting, dude. Just let me finish a sentence. We were talking about the rise. My guy, just zip it for real quick. Like, we were talking about the rise of Christianity in Europe, right? And then you told me, where are all those studies? Show me the studies. Show me the statistics. So I show you statistics for the rise of popularity of Christianity in Europe.
Just 1 second. Before that, we talked about communism.
Yeah, I'm not talking about before that.
Yeah, and you said you have the polls that show that communism was very popular among Russians or in the Soviet bloc.
Yeah, I can show you those polls as well.
You didn't show me any polls. Now you're saying Christianity is very popular. Just 1 second. Now you're saying it's very popular amongst young people. Now it's in Eastern Europe, not in Western Europe. Show me something in Western Europe.
We're talking about Europe in general. What are you talking about?
It's not the same.
I get it's not
Europe
the same. It's some evidence that Christianity rises in popularity. Look, if there are certain subsets... Jesus, just stay quiet for a moment so I can make the argument. If there are certain parts in Europe where Christianity rises in popularity, while in others it stays stable or modestly declines, then it's an evidence that Christianity rises overall in popularity. Do you understand that?
No.
No, you don't understand it?
No,
Yeah,
no, no. It only rises when you say about Poland, it's because the government over there does not want immigrants that are Muslims, and also in Hungary. But when we're talking about Germany, when we're talking about the UK, when we're talking about Netherlands, when you're talking about other countries, especially Protestant countries, the religion does not have any place there.
Yeah,
And
do you have any evidence that Christianity overall declines in Europe?
of course.
Okay, what's the evidence?
I don't know how many statistics, okay?
And I saw evidence that Christianity loses popularity. Not that Muslims immigrate to those countries and change the demographic makeup, but that
Christianity loses popularity in Western Europe. You can look it up for yourself, okay? And read it and say after
well, it's
that.
your claim. Why can't you prove it?
Because I'm not going to look it up right now.
Right, very convenient.
Look, I'm just walking my dog right now. I will not. I don't have now the source. I'm with the phone right now. I'm not at home, so I don't have now the statistics. But you can look
them up instead of just like.
I'm not saying anything based on my conviction, but on what I read and what I know. And I've been many times in Europe, and even in Eastern countries. I've lived in a Christian country all my life until a few years when I came to Israel. And I know that Christianity is losing ground. It's not the same as it was many years ago, even in Eastern Europe. I saw it with my own eyes. And also in churches. Churches are empty. This is the situation. I'm a Jew. I'm not concerned about their religion. Yes, I'm concerned about my religion. But on what I'm seeing right now is that Muslim immigrants want to take over the countries in Western Europe. They arrive for a better life, and they're trying to change the way of life in the countries that they are hosted in. So this is a very big problem. So this doesn't have anything to do with Judaism, but with their concept of life. They want to take over. And this is what happens in Israel. And this is why, for example, in Gaza, you do not have with whom to talk, because they are very extremist people. You don't have with whom to talk. All the countries, all the states that were established by secular nationalistic movements. Italy, Germany, all the modern states, France, they were all secular countries. And even Iran was a secular country before it became extremist and religious. So once people turn to religion, you don't have with whom to talk. It's the end. You know that, for example, the PLO was a secular movement. So in the end, you could somehow talk to them. But with Hamas, you cannot talk at all. There's no possibility to talk to them, or to the Arab Brotherhood, or to any of them. There is nothing that they can bring you to talk to them. You don't have any common ground. So this is a very big problem. Yeah. Are you still there?
I'm still here. I just looked up the studies that you asked for. Yeah, let me just memorize the title, because every time I exit the TikTok tab, like it mutes me. So let me just memorize the title so I can tell it to you, okay?
Okay, so the problem is, if we can de-radicalize, or I'm not pronouncing it right, to make them less radical,
okay, I'm back. So here's the poll.
It's a very complex problem, and
yeah,
we do not
heard it like 50 times. Look, you can, like, here's the poll you asked for, right?
Yeah.
Look at the poll that was done on 17th of March, 1991.
1991. Do you understand what you say? You found something that was 2 years after the fall of communism, and
no, in Soviet Union, it didn't fall in 1991. What do you mean?
It fell in 1999 or in 1990, 1 year later. And what was done after that was
no, it was done before the fall of the Soviet Union.
1991 was after the fall of the Soviet Union.
No.
Yes.
When the Soviet Union fell?
Gorbachev and Yeltsin. Yeah. Look, I'm sorry, you don't know what.
Wait, like even if we agree, for example, that it was after, like how much after the things that happened?
1 year later. 1 year later.
Okay, great. So the polls that was done 1 year later. Look, the polls that was done 1 year later. All the people just suddenly magically changed their views, right?
Yes.
Yes,
This was
changed their views.
It was, yes. You don't understand this. It was because when communism fell, they wanted to go back to something that was very deep, very nationalistic, very religious. So they became religious for a few years, and then they became secular again. Yeah, since the beginning of the 21st
over 1
century.
year, they just changed all of their views.
Yes, they became very religious for a few years, because communism was against religious feelings and against religious.
Nothing to do with the conversation. We're talking about, did they support the Soviet Union or not?
No, they did not. I told you.
Why does the polling data shows otherwise?
Which show me the data.
I already presented the data for you, but you say 1 year after, which is not even true.
You say they became religious, and I'm telling you why, because there was a
Whoa,
burst
I'm not
of
talking
feelings.
about religion. What are you talking about?
There was a burst of feelings.
I'm asking you, did they support the fall of the Soviet Union or did they not? Right?
Yes.
Nothing to do with religion. Nothing to do with religion. Just did they support the Soviet Union? And we have a poll that was done like 2 years before the fall of the Soviet Union, but you have your times mixed up to find, let's say, 1 year after the fall of the Soviet Union.
Look it
right?
up.
So again, the polling data shows that they supported the Soviet Union. So again, here's the poll.
Yeah, show me the poll.
Yeah, I told you, look up the poll about the Soviet Union on the 17th of March, 1991. Yeah, so, well, he looks that up and finds out he was wrong about everything, and it just was like a big, lengthy monologue about just asserting points without really bringing evidence. And every time he's asking for proof, for evidence, he just walks his dog and he's not going to look up anything, but he saw it with his own eyes, so therefore it must be true. Yeah, I think we should derive our political views from like data-driven evidence, not just based on anecdotal experience and our feelings. But I guess we'll just wait for him to come back.
Okay, this really got way off my original topic, but I just let you guys battle it out between yourselves. I don't really have much knowledge about that.
Just 1 second. If it was popular, why isn't there almost a communist party in Russia today? Because it wasn't popular.
Don't call themselves a communist party.
Yeah, well, how is it called? How is it called? There was this guy.
Sorry, the party of Putin, whatever it's called, I don't know. But they're in practice.
Not a communist party. It's not a communist party. Communist is they have everything in common. They live in communes. They don't live.
Like they're doing Russia right now. They're not very private.
Putin is a capitalist. Putin is an oligarch, and he has oligarchs around him. So
it's all that in the Communist Party as well. So what?
What?
Yeah, but did you look up the polling data?
He believes in Christianity, and he is appointing the chief religious clerk or high priest in Russia.
Yeah, he also controls the means of production in Russia, which makes it effectively communist.
No.
Communism controls them.
Communism is.
Wait, so Russian resources are not nationalized, for example?
So what? This can also be in every dictatorship. Nasser.
You can have a communist dictatorship. I agree, sure.
And Nasser nationalized everything in Egypt. So
wait,
what?
did you look up the polling data that I told you?
I'm not finding it.
What do you mean? What did you find? When you type in Soviet Union poll 17th of March 1991, what does it show? Okay, so while he looks it up, do you want to say anything?
We have another guest here. I want to say hello to.
Hello.
Abigail. Hi. How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Good. Do you want to join the conversation? Something new to talk about.
I want to understand first, like because you have a like Israeli-Palestinian debate, so I just want to kind of know who is where, like on the spectrum of the debate.
Oh, I'm Jewish. I live in Israel. I'm pro-Israel, definitely. We have Bar, and both of these people are Israelis.
Oh, okay. So I'm Israeli as well. I live in Israel too.
Right. So.
What?
No, I'm just joking around. No.
Okay, they got off talking about nationalism versus religion and what's more.
Just want to address him just for 1 second. For I don't know this guy's name, but this was done. The poll was done in the time that Michael Gorbachev was still in power. So it was still in Soviet times. So
wait.
The polls cannot be considered as a true poll.
Please wait a second. Just stop yapping. So it was during the Soviet times, like I said.
It was just a second before. It began to fall apart when Mikhail Gorbachev was in power. In 1991, it fell apart completely, and after that, Boris Yeltsin came to power.
But it was before, right? It was before Boris Yeltsin came to power, right? It was still Soviet.
In 1990, he began to close the Soviet Union. He began
he began to tear it apart.
To tear it apart, yes. He began to tear it apart into republics. But in 1991, it fell apart completely, and then Yeltsin came to power.
It's called in Hebrew Masach HaBarzel, like they lifted it up.
The iron how it's called?
The Iron Curtain?
Yeah, the Iron Curtain, yes, exactly.
Yeah, and the poll was done before Yeltsin came to power, correct?
Yes, but Gorbachev.
Okay, so that's what I said.
Everybody was afraid to vote against. You don't understand the mentality of these people. Living 70 years in communism. You could not vote
another
against.
monologue.
Yeah.
Hold on. So at first, when I said there's polling data, you said no way. They all didn't like the Soviet Union. Now I show you polling data that they did like the Soviet Union.
Show me polls after Yeltsin. Show me polls 10 years later, or
just ask.
I don't know. It wasn't real polls. It wasn't real polls. He wanted to demonstrate his power. Gorbachev was a communist.
You had like
he himself was he was raised in communism.
Okay. So you have like 150 million people participating in those polls. Those are not real polls.
No, this is not real polls. It's like, you know, there are polls right now in Russia showing that a vast majority of Russians vote for Putin. Do you believe these are real elections?
Yeah, I do believe that most Russians support Putin.
He's playing with his vice president, with what's his name? I forgot. No?
Yeah, do you have any evidence for any of your claims? Like, I provided you multiple evidence.
You believe that Bashar Assad was elected 90%. You believe that President Assisi was elected 90%. You believe that Putin was elected 88%.
Russia is like a for sure dictatorship under the disguise of democracy.
Of course.
Yes, but many people still like their leaders. Like, if you talk to the people, many of them still...
Look, I mean, I don't think that the numbers that are the percentages and the numbers that are shown through the Russian media, which is a complete bullshit. If we think that they're like fake news, I mean, they're the masters of propaganda and fake news. So I do doubt the numbers, but you have to look at the mentality of the, especially Russian, but I mean, also generally like the Soviet mentality. I mean, they are, especially the ones who are like 50 and older, you know, that they are from the older generation. They have experienced communism for most of their lives. They have experienced communism, and they are brain-wired already because it's through culture and like systematic brainwashing. They're already operating on automatically to support the leader, and
You're basically saying that they're predisposed to support communism, right? Because they're born into the system.
There was never democracy in the Soviet Union or in
exactly.
Russia.
They are just a nation. They're a nation of people that they can't let go of the mentality. Like, you know, before there were
Avital, isn't that evidence that most of the Soviets at the time, most of the people living under the Soviet Union supported it? If they still
no, they had no other choice.
They had no other choice.
No, when they were asked, do they like the government? They said, yes, we like the Soviet Union.
No, there was, okay, so you should read the book and watch the movie Child 44. Just to understand, or read a little bit about like the Ukrainian massacre that nobody talks about. That happened.
Everybody talks about. I don't know, like, where this idea comes from.
So there's you have to understand that there's definitely, most of them did not want to live under the Soviet Union regime.
Then why all the data that we have shows otherwise?
Even at the time of the Tsar, okay, when the whole Anastasia story, you know, everything, and the poll that was happening there, that on its own should prove how the people there were craving for a change. But it's too damn frightening to start a poll against the people who uphold you for all of your life.
Initially, all the peasants, in Russia supported the Red Army, but after Lenin came to power, they didn't want communism because they took their lands. There was an agrarian reform, and they just wanted to receive.
Then again, like, look, let me address Avital's claims first. She says like it would be frightening, but it's not very frightening when like, all of the nation anonymously participates in the poll, and like 80% of the nation supports communism. Like, it's not very frightening.
Okay, so you have to look at like different countries and understand that the peaceful majority, or the people who want change, and they're usually I'm going to call it the peaceful majority, you know, because they're the ones like that feel mistreated, oppressed, are not represented, etc. So the peaceful majority is usually in dictatorship countries is irrelevant. You can look at Iran; it's irrelevant. North Korea, irrelevant. The peaceful majority, and it's the majority, usually in this type of mentality of dictatorship and totalitarity,
he's claiming that he has data, but the data, it's like having polls of supporting Kim Jong-un. So you don't believe the polls will reflect what is going on there, or their thoughts, or their needs, or their real feelings. No, it's going to represent what the Kim Jong-un wants.
Well, if the polls are anonymous, why would you be afraid?
It's not anonymous. It's not anonymous. It's not like you're writing a how is it called? No, I forgot the word for that.
Yes, the polls are anonymous.
לא הצבעה, איך קוראים לזה? עצומה. How do you say that in English?
Petition.
A petition, right. So it's not like you're signing a petition and you're just not signing your name. You're doing some weird mumbo jumbo on the paper. It's not that. It's you're showing your face outside. The people who are protesting right now in Israel at the Kaplan.
Yes, but if we're talking about the Russian situation, it was like signing a petition. Like someone asked you to to circle your answer to a question, right? Do you like the Soviet Union? Do you want the Soviet Union to remain?
Look, you were born in Israel. You cannot.
Just so you know.
No, but you cannot understand the mentality. I was born in Romania in the last years of the communism. I was born in 1982. And in the last years of communism were so terrible. Everybody was spying against everybody else.
I mean, try to live under KGB.
It's exactly the same. They had the Securitate, that was the KGB, or the Stasi in Germany, in Eastern Germany. It was the same. They had everybody had the same type of police. Everybody had the same type of spies, and you could not go to a hotel without being spied or saying something without being.
Like if you have the slightest allegation or the slightest doubt about your obedience to the moral values that the Soviet Union represented, for example, like they didn't believe in any religion. It was a completely secular country. So for Jews, for example, it was probably the end of the communism was probably one of the frightening stages of it. And I remember my dad is like 70 years old right now.
I'm sorry, I hate to interrupt you, but he just doesn't engage with what I'm saying. My point was, there was no way for the government to trace back the people who voted on the poll. There were like 150 million people who voted in this poll.
It can be 300 million.
Just stop interrupting. Let me get more.
Do you believe the polls in China? Look, do you believe they had everybody under control? There was a revolution in China.
Everybody's under control.
Revolution.
Right?
They analyzed tens of millions of people. They did not allow. They did not allow anybody, any family, to have more than one child.
Like a quick moment. Look, if we're discussing the authenticity of the poll, like the fact that they kill a bunch of people, it doesn't have to do anything with the fact of whether the poll is right or not. Like they had no way to identify the people who were voting for the poll. And bear in mind, like 40 million people, voted against keeping the Soviet Union intact. Do you think they did something to 40 million people after the poll? Of course
no.
No,
It was forfeited.
Hold on,
it was forfeited in advance. It was fake in advance. You don't understand.
Based on what? You don't have any evidence that it was fake?
Yes, because I lived in such a regime. I know how it works. I know how it works.
Wait. If I lived in such a regime and I claimed it wasn't fake, how do we know which one of us is right?
Because you were being spied on. There is nothing. You didn't go to the ballot.
How you can decide? How can
That doesn't
you
answer my
make
question.
your own...
Look, wait, hold on. Let me just get the argument out. If I lived under the Soviet Union and you lived under the Soviet Union, and you claimed it was fake and I claimed it wasn't fake, how do we decide which one of us is right?
But that's exactly coming back to what he said about the spies. You cannot make a knowledgeable choice of your own free will if you are being scared and always looking behind your back because KGB, you might think that your neighbors...
I don't think you... Maybe I didn't explain my point well enough. Here's my point.
People turn their parents...
It doesn't have any sense comparing if you liked it and I didn't like it, like which one of us is right. It was...
Look, Avital, I don't think you follow the argument. Look, he claims that he knows the polls were fake and that people were afraid. His evidence, right, is that he lived there. Right?
Lived experience is one of the most defining evidence.
Of what?
Do you think it was, in Israel,
wait, Avital,
you put the ballot vote, you put it in a, just 1 second, in Israel,
Avital, real quick.
But you didn't click there, you don't understand how the poll was done.
Let me just ask Avital a question. She was very polite. I want to ask her a question. Look, Avital, do you realize that when I stick my head out of the window and I look outside, the earth seems flat to me? That's my lived experience. Do you think it's a good way to gather evidence about whether the earth is globe or flat?
That's a whole different comparison. And it's assuming it's assuming that we are, if you talk about the earth, for example, it's from the fact that you're saying that example because you're assuming that we are, both of us, and you're correctly assuming so, that we are both of us on the earth, right? But if I'm talking about lived experience, not me personally, for example, my parents, my mother's father was the CEO of the Communist Party in Tashkent, which is the capital of Uzbekistan. So if you're talking from lived experience, and we're like in different places, okay, that means that you don't have lived experience because you didn't live there, you don't know what it is, and that person does.
I can make the analogy more accurate if you want. Let's say I'm blind, right? Let's say I'm blind, I can't see. And you stick your head out of the window and you look at the earth and it seems flat. I don't have the same lived experience as you because I can't see. But it still wouldn't make you right. Do you realize it?
It's no comparison. What you're saying, look, do you know that in North Korea, they have all kinds of towns that are only for tourists to come and see? This was the same in the Soviet Union, in other places. It was everything for show. There was nothing on the shelves to eat, okay? Nothing. The medicine was bad. Education was bad. Only in the big cities it was a little better, but in the villages and everything was very bad.
Not
and there was
listen,
shortage of food. How would anyone want to live in such a country? And
But
you
people
telling me
live there.
everything and everything, they would
yeah,
not.
I'll explain how.
They would not
I'll
cast
explain
the
how.
ballot vote. Just 1 second. They would not cast the ballot vote in an envelope as you do here. People that did not know how to vote, they would put their finger in ink, or they would sign with on open shields. On open sheets, they would put a V or something. You know,
Yeah,
it was
again,
under the
yeah, again.
scrutiny. It was under the scrutiny of the Communist Party. There was no other parties you could elect from. There was only one party.
I will
Because
say
for
only
the
one
entire time
newspaper.
they didn't have democracy until 1991. There was no democracy.
I'm
They
not
don't know
claiming
how
to
to
work.
Every
live. They don't know how
newspaper
to
worked for
live.
the
They don't know
government.
how to live in a
None
democratic.
of this even engages with my argument. I always have to restate my argument because none of you
Well,
actually.
you don't understand.
I never
I'm sorry.
argued.
It's useless.
I never.
No, I
They had
understand
they
him.
had
I
one,
understand him.
Hold on.
newspaper called Pravda, and this is everything
Oh my God!
they
It
had
has nothing
to
to do
read.
with what I'm talking about. Like, can we engage with what I'm talking about? I didn't claim that the Soviet Union was good or that people lived a good quality life there. What I did claim.
No, but you're relying on polls
Look, let
that
me
were
make my
done
argument.
when
You can understand it.
Gorbachev was still in
If we
power.
just
Wait,
talk
hold
about
on.
it,
Let's try to understand what he's saying.
Here's what I'm saying. I'm saying that the people, while living in the Soviet Union, thought at the time that they were living in a great country. You're asking how come they thought this way if they live in poor conditions? Well, because they were indoctrinated by the school system, and because they believe they appeal to greater moral values of. I don't
They
know,
did not
smart
believe they were
resources.
forced to believe.
Look, can you stop cutting me off? I'm trying to answer your question here, right? So that's how they believe. But all that has nothing to do with my point of when they circle the answer, like, right, most people can't vote, but most people can circle the correct answer in a poll, right? And they knew that the poll wouldn't be able to get traced back to them. That's why so many people participate
That's
in the
not
poll.
true. That's
why.
not true.
Oh, it's not true. How could you trace
No,
it back?
here
Not
we come.
true,
Here we
because
come
if
to the
your
debate.
neighbor,
Wait,
hold on,
let
Nati,
speak,
hold
let
on.
Vital speak.
I'll tell you why it's not that simple as just checking the answer that you want to. Okay, if you live in a building and you don't know, but your neighbor is a snitch to the KGB, okay, which we know is something that's still happening today. They have spies and they are sharing Iranian spies, and they're all doing that together. So just proving that there's no real democracy there today. But if you suspect that, not if you suspect, and that neighbor who is a snitch for the KGB, he suspects, I don't know, he up to your door. He saw you talking to somebody who is already known to be shady about the like the totalitarian regime. Okay, if they put their eyes on you, it's just gonna get worse and gonna get downhill from here. And it comes to a point where they put you in a cell that is like 1.5 meters on 1.5 meters. Okay, and you can't.
I get your point. I get your point. You're basically saying people were afraid. I already heard this argument. I'll address it again, right? When you circle an answer in a poll, you don't have to make a noise. So even if the neighbor eavesdrop you, he wouldn't hear anything, right? And besides that, like besides like a certain conspiracy theories, maybe they were afraid it was fake. Do you have any evidence that they were actually afraid and they didn't actually think it was a good place to live in?
So I think there's a documentary about Putin. I saw it like 8 years ago. I'm gonna try to figure out the name, but I just don't remember it. But I do remember the documentary, of course, was in Russia, and it was talking to the civilians and the residents, and they were talking to them, and they were expressing, those people, they were expressing such a shock. And even when they spoke about it on the TV for the documentary, you could see that even the expression of the shock, they do it so mildly, and they're
I'm sorry,
not,
but shock about what?
that Putin is elected again.
Oh, okay.
They believe, and that's like a lot of the majority, but they're afraid to speak.
Wait, but the show doesn't prove that there is a majority, right? It just shows a couple of people that were shocked.
So the one of the things that I do remember that was on that documentary is a lot of statistics that is backed up by like modern day peer-reviewed articles. So I will try to find the name, but I do suggest you watch it and refer not only to polls, but also like to articles, especially peer-reviewed articles that are approved, to see the statistics and the numbers and the factors to why these polls are rigged.
He could not be elected more than 2 times, and he put Dmitry Medvedev to be the president as he was the prime minister. And later they
let me respond to Avital. You don't have to prattle about this. Avital, look.
Yeah.
I would encourage you actually to follow your own advice and look at all the academic publications that cited this very same poll and accept it as being representative of the true opinions of the people who lived under the Soviet Union, and you will see that what I'm saying is true. But
okay.
Yeah, it's very evident. And well, I didn't memorize from the top of my head like the ways in which they authenticated the poll, but it's widely accepted in academia as to be true that people genuinely did like to live in the Soviet Union, generally, mostly. And the reason was because they were indoctrinated in schools. Like My mom was a member of the Communist Youth Party, right? And she, like nowadays, she hates communism, right? Absolutely hates it, right? But she grew up in the Soviet Union, and she was from very young age indoctrinated by being a member in this youth party.
So if I'm telling you from my lived experience, I mean, my parents' lived experience, just like you mentioned. So your mom was...
Well, I also corroborated with data, right?
Of course, but...
But you contradict yourself. Because you say that your mother didn't like communism. So when she was young, she liked it because they had parades, they had all kinds of things.
So where's the contradiction?
Brainwashed her.
Yes, it's not a contradiction.
But she was brainwashed. But she didn't. When you grow up, when you grow up and you see, and you have to bring up a family, you see all the problems, you see all the hardships, then you hate communism.
I think we're saying both of us the same thing.
Okay, let me respond to Nati. Hold on. Nati, there's no contradiction. My mom, while she lived in the Soviet Union, as I said, liked the Soviet Union like most people. Only once she left it, she started to not like it. It's not contradiction. In fact, it's very coherent logically. That's my response.
But you're saying the same thing. I don't know how you don't...
Everybody dreamt of leaving the Soviet Union.
The fact you're saying the same thing. I think that Ba is basically saying that you're not talking about the stance of the Soviet Union's regime. Is it good or bad? You're not focusing on that. I think you seem educated and smart enough to understand that regime is destruction to people. But I do think that you're talking about the fact that they all seemed, like you said, that your mom, who was in the communist youth, she liked the Soviet Union, and that's because she was brainwashed. She was brainwashed, just like the Gazans, the children of Gaza are being brainwashed, just like other countries like
but this doesn't mean that the polls that were conducted in 1991 were correct or they were false. And this is what happens when there is elections, even in the Soviet.
I mean, I personally, wait, hold on. I'm not done with my point. So, essentially, it doesn't even matter if the polls are rigged or not. The morality is the fact that those people were brainwashed to believe that what they have is the best, and those people, most of the times, didn't leave the country to other places, and if they did, they were so indoctrinated and brainwashed that to believe that what they have is the best. This is why your mom used to like the Soviet Union when she grew up there, because she was indoctrinated. But once she came here, she saw what?
Our argument was not the Soviet Union. Our argument began in the difference between religious feelings and nationalistic feelings. We argued about the Arabs or the Muslims being radicals Muslims or radical religious, and this is very different from nationalist movements or nationalist feelings.
Well, not exactly.
Not exactly.
Wait, we specifically argued about the fact, well, his position.
And I said that those, just one second, and you can answer whatever you want.
Sure, go ahead.
And that nationalistic, less extremist, usually.
You're not that receptive.
And he gave them the Schmatzi party, which. Sorry?
No, for
and
a second.
He gave the example of the Schmatzi party, and I said it's not exactly the same.
Like the
What is your opinion
Islamists,
on
you're
that?
talking.
Yeah, that's not what we argued about. Like the argument was revolved around political feelings of religious people are always deeper and stronger than the feelings of nationalist people. His position was that yes, religious fundamentalists will always feel stronger about their convictions compared to nationalists. My position was that that's not true at all. In fact, when we look at the conduct of nationalists, they seem to be at least equally, if not more, extreme in their feelings and their deep connection to their ideology than religious people. And then we came to talk about the Nazi Party and the Soviet Union, and then he started to say, well, the people in the Soviet Union didn't actually support it, and then I told him there are polls that contradict it, and now he doesn't accept the polls and makes up this lived experience that everybody just was afraid, 150 million people were afraid, and 40 million people voted against the Soviet Union, but they were also somehow afraid, and just this,
So I'm going to say that radicalism on both sides, the socialist and nationalist and the religious, we can see it in Israel, how they are just any radical way you choose.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Do you think it's possible? Like, is it within the realm of logical possibilities that a nationalist ideology, members of a nationalist ideology, will be more radical and have deeper feelings about their ideology than some certain other group of religious people? Is it possible?
Yeah. It is.
Yeah, I agree. It is possible.
I don't think
religious extremists.
Hold on, but I don't think that it should be that way.
Yeah, we're not talking about.
It's just the reality.
Yeah, what you're referring to is like positive versus normative arguments, right? Positive arguments just state what is, and normative arguments talk about what should.
I will tell you the difference.
Yeah,
religious extremists rely more on popular. Just one second.
I will finish with one sentence. Hold on, just one sentence. Like the thing he was arguing is that it's impossible. So that's the crux of the argument, basically, right?
Like, I don't think that any of them really, it depends on the era, it depends on the period, it depends on historical events and culture, but each one of them at one point in history was outranking the other.
Yeah, I agree, but
And a lot of the times in history, if you look like at the Catholic Church and the Protestants and everything, that's basically, it's about religion, right? It's about how to worship, but it's like also about nationalism and moral values, you know? So it's
But they relied on popular vote. They relied on the majority of the people, and the nationalists rely on a smaller portion of population. It's not the same. Both the communists, both the Schmazis.
I disagree. You have a lot of, for example, right-wing people in Israel, that the right wing is usually considered the more religious one out of the two, right? But you have a lot of right-wing supporters who are not religious. They are
only a small quantity of population. They are a small percentage of population.
What, the right wing?
Yeah, not the right wing. The right wing is something else. I'm talking about the nationalistic right wing. Yes, for example, Kach, as it was, or any other extremist religious parties. They were, or Ben Gvir, they rely on very small groups of people. When other religious groups, for example, in Iran or in other extremist religious countries, they rely on all the people. They do not only rely on small groups of people. This is the difference.
Hold on, I don't think so. They rely only on religious people. They don't rely on secular people.
Exactly.
They rely on the whole population.
No. Their whole population in Iran hates the regime.
The revolution was done by very important or very big masses of population.
Wait,
but in the revolution, they thought that this was the answer to things. And also, you should take into account that there were masses who were migrating from Iran and were escaping from Iran. And you have to take that into consideration. And there were masses.
The masses support when they declared the independence or the new republic, the new Islamic Republic. They had the popular vote.
Nati, do you think the church relies on secular people?
No, they rely on.
then they're not relying on the whole population.
Exactly.
You just contradicted yourself.
The majority.
You will see that
the majority of the Spanish people were religious. There was no such thing as secular in the 15th century or in the 17th century until the.
Yeah, but how does that connect? Like, you're talking a lot about history. Like, talk about now. Things are different now.
Yeah, and now, for example, nationalistic parties in Germany rely on a very small group of people in Germany.
They rely on the majority of people.
Even the Schmazis had only 33% when they were elected to the Reichstag.
It was it was the most popular party. Yes, it was the most popular
party. Yes, but it was only 33 out of the whole nation. So
you don't need to have the majority of the nation to be the most popular.
Look at 67% that did not vote for them. Yes.
Yes, but it doesn't mean
but just like in Israel, you don't need all half of the country or more to vote for you. The fact that you have the most mandates.
What I was saying, that once a nationalistic party achieves its goals, it usually dissipates. It usually disappears, or it becomes something else. The religious problem is something that cannot disappear. It lingers on and on and on and on for centuries.
That it directly contradicts history.
Wait, hold on. I'm just trying to hold on. Sorry, Bob. Nati, are you you have issues with religion? I'm just asking.
No.
Yeah, what does it have to do with anything?
Because we said what we said before.
No, I'm just asking because it was it kind of appeared to me that he said the problems with religious governments or something like that, and
I said, the argument was that he said at the beginning when you were not with us. He said that once that you can radicalize people by education. And I said that the feelings, this was the beginning of the argument. And I said religious feelings are a lot deeper than what is believed. You cannot unroot these feelings as, for example, you educate them, because religion is very, very deep. It has very deep roots. And he said anti-Semitism and all kinds of things. And then we.
Yeah, well, basically, I was asking for proof. Why would religious feelings always be deeper than national feelings? Like, you could easily have deeper
feelings. Because they're rooted for much more time in human history. That's why.
But your lived experience since when you're born is still the same. Like, you could live your whole life under indoctrination of a nationalist ideology. Or
I was.
No, I'm not asking for head. I'm just saying it wouldn't necessitate necessarily that you will have deeper feelings towards your religions and towards your nationality. It's just absolutely false. And we have plenty of examples in history, like.
Well, that depends. What type of nationalism?
Well, if it depends, look, if you say it depends, it's already conceding the argument, because it means it's possible, right? It's possible to have stronger feelings for your nationality than this for your religion. And if it is possible,
I don't think that it, like the, how can I say? I don't really talk about the numbers. I mean, the ideology of nationalism only without religion, I think that it is just like no connection to the numbers. I just think, like Nati said, it at some point it dissolves, it disappears, it doesn't last. And the fact is, for example, how do we know that a book is very, very good and it should, like, you know how we know that? Because it stands through the test of time. So if I would,
I think I get the argument. You're basically saying, tell me, because I don't want to paraphrase what you're saying. You're basically saying that religious teachings last and they're more inherent to the person's identity compared to national feelings, which once are being fulfilled disappear. Correct?
wait again.
You're saying that religious feelings and convictions are tied more to the person's identity, basically, compared to national convictions, right?
Of course.
So that's why one disappears and the other stays. Correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how come almost no national movement disappeared on itself if you don't take it out by force, and plenty of religions disappeared on themselves because people chose to leave those religions? It just seems directly contradicting. Do you see what I'm saying?
Well, but the numbers show differently. I mean,
what national movement from Italy in the 19th century do you still have today? No one. What movements from the American Civil War or from the American Revolution do you still have today? None.
Yes, you have, of course. You have the government. The government. The people in the American Civil
War.
War.
You have the Democrat and the Republican. That's it. You do not have any movements that were in the.
Yeah, they are based around the fact that
one thing.
Look, I'm trying to answer your question. But
who teaches you religion?
I'm trying to answer your question.
Who teaches you religion?
Look,
your parents.
Hold on. If you just shower me with questions, I will not be able to answer all of them. Let's just go over them one by one. You think what political party remained in Italy? None, because they were removed by force, not because they dissolved on themselves.
No. They achieved the republic. They achieved the.
When I say hold on. When I say dissolved, hold on. When I say dissolved, you could also say dismantled. I mean, at some point in the history, they didn't stand the test of time.
Just like most religions.
Are you talking about like idol worshipping religions?
Sure, amongst others, yeah.
Okay.
They lived for thousands of years.
They lived for thousands of years, but the monotheistic religions outlived those idol worshipping religious views.
Not
They outlived them.
I'm not sure.
Not all of them, no.
I'm not sure. For example, Islam is only from 622.
Islam, I'm sorry, but Islam is a complete, like, I'm not, well, maybe I am an Islamophobe. I'm not sure. But I mean, Islam was, you're right, it was initiated it began in the 600 after count, AC, right?
Yeah.
AD, sorry. And before that came Christianity. But
yeah, but they were not Christians before. They were idol worshippers.
There were Jews.
Yes, of course.
Wait, you mean to tell me that Jesus from Nazareth was not?
No, we're talking about Islam. You're saying about Islam.
They were idol worshipping, right?
Yes, of course.
So
the Kaaba was a place of worship of idols.
Yes, of course, I know that.
Idol worshipping came a lot longer than Islam.
Yeah,
Islam, but not Judaism.
Wait, hold on.
Judaism outlived. First of all, it outlives all other monotheistics.
Yeah, but Judaism is a relatively small religion, and until 2,000 years ago, all the nations were idol worshippers. So for thousands of years, they were idol worshippers.
The fact that it's a small religion or not.
Just 1 second. I just want to say something. Religion feelings are deeper because those who teach you religion are your parents and your grandparents and the whole community. While other nationalistic, they're being taught by propaganda on the television, on radio. And
no, they're also being taught by their parents.
No, they're also being taught by home.
No, not really.
Based on what? I was taught national values based on
yeah, I was taught national values as well. But
what national values were you taught?
Like Zionism? Like Zionism, for example?
What exactly were you told by Zionism?
They taught me, yeah, sure, they taught me.
Did they tell you how to pray? Or did they tell you to
no,
put it
but Zionism has nothing to do with religion.
It's funny what you're saying, Nati, because they didn't in fact teach me religious values. I kind of became religious through my own worldview. But
yeah.
They did teach me national values.
The influence of the Israeli community.
No.
No, my family taught me Zionist values. I don't know what you're talking about.
Zionism is a nationalistic value system.
Yeah, it's a nationalist ideology. I was taught Zionism by my parents.
You don't have to be Jewish. Look for example, Yusuf Haddad. He's an Arab Israeli. and he's a Zionist.
So exactly what? It doesn't mean that he's not Christian. So his Christianity means more to him than his being Israeli.
Yeah,
It's,
I don't think no,
waving the flag in the Yom Ha'atzmaut it's less important for someone than to be religious or to fast on Yom Kippur.
Based on
It's not on the same ground.
Wait, no, hold on. If you can be religious, a religious Jew, and be a Zionist, and you can be a non-Jew and be a Zionist.
Do you compare being a Haredi to a Zionist?
Well, first of all, the majority. First of all, the
You cannot
majority.
compare the religious.
First of all, the majority of Haredi people, what you see on the media is taking the extremists and just posting them for ratings. But the majority of the Haredi people, they do have Zionist values. That's the majority. The ones you see on the media are the.
Yeah, but it's not on the same level with their belief.
Sure,
It's not on the same level.
Oh,
You
no,
cannot compare.
I disagree with you. I disagree with you.
How they're taught and how and their
I
beliefs.
disagree with you, and I disagree
And you
with you.
cannot
And it's simply
compare. You cannot compare a Zionist secular person with a Haredi, and you can say, well, Zionism is on the same level with the Jewish belief.
Of course it is.
It cannot stand on the same scale.
Nati, what if I'm religious, right, and Zionist, but Zionism is more important to me than religion? What would
Let's ask the host.
There's no thing as one
What is more important to you,
than the other.
being Jewish or being a Zionist?
For me personally,
But they can't exist without
Let's
one
ask the
another.
host.
You're
Let's
talking
ask the
about
host.
you're talking about two things that cannot
Of
exist.
course they can. There
one
are even
without the
Christian
other.
Zionists.
no, wait, no, Avital, you can be secular Zionist. What are you talking about?
There are even Christian
course
Zionists.
can.
Let's ask the host.
What if I'm?
What is more important for you, being Jewish or being a Zionist?
Jewish.
For me, for example, being Jewish is more important than being a Zionist.
Yeah, but for some other person,
Sorry?
it would be more important to be Zionist than to be religious.
But the concept of Zionism is rooted in Judaism, so it kind of comes down to the same thing.
But yeah, but
I mean, you still
Zionism
can
is
be
like a
taught.
national thing, not as a
No, it's
religious
not
thing.
exactly.
You can still be, again.
Zionism
land.
cannot
But
exist
again, we're
without the
talking
land of
about-
Israel. Judaism can exist without Israel.
But again, you're talking for. I had lots of friends that served the IDF at high ranking and very, very good units, fought in Gaza or in the Mishmar HaGvul. They are waving the flag. They are standing at the Yom HaZikaron LeChalalei Tzahal, and they're
Not
standing.
necessarily out of Zionism.
What do you mean? You would go to
Yeah, but this is-
Sayeret Matkal. You would
They
go to
respect
Sayeret
the
Matkal.
country.
What?
Yes.
What?
Yes, of course.
You cannot. You
They
won't.
They
you
have their
won't-
own motivation, and they want to.
No, you won't risk your life.
I served.
He has no reception.
I served in a combat unit.
Okay.
And I was 3 years in Israel. So, and I don't know if I could be called a Zionist. Yes, I was a Zionist. My parents brought me up as a Zionist, but it was more important for me to be Jewish than a Zionist. And it was, my identity was more Jewish than Zionist.
But those ideas.
Okay, once I came here, it was, of course, important for me to live in a Jewish state and everything. But being Jewish, for example, I could live in,
Would you?
I could
I'm
live
sorry.
in the
I'm
United
sorry.
States,
Like
I could
for
live in
the.
England, I could live in another country.
The
But there
problem
are
is also
Jews.
that
But there
those
are
ideas
Jewish
are mutually
people.
exclusive. You can't be Zionist without like supporting Judaism as a concept. It's just impossible. Right?
Exactly.
But what is possible is to be.
Okay, I have to say
Wait,
goodnight
hold
to
on,
you.
hold on. No, not exactly. Again,
I
I'm
have to
going
go.
back. Okay, I'm going
then.
back. Oh,
Thank you.
thank you. I'm going back to the example again of Youssef Haddad. That's a former. I don't know if he was Islamist. I don't know if he was Muslim. But now I know now that he's a Christian. He's married to a Jewish woman, and he was in one of the combat units, and he lost his leg for this country. But he is not a Jew. I mean, you could have people, they're not the majority, but you could have people who are nationalists because their worldviews are coherent with the worldviews of their nationality, or because they see the faultness of other nationalities. You know,
Yes,
we can still have.
So Nati is not here to defend his position. I don't want to, keep talking about it because he can defend his position here. But yeah, I just think the idea is that someone who's a Zionist and a religious person at the same time, and it's impossible for him to prioritize Zionism over his religious values. I think it's just a baseless claim. People can and are believing all kinds of weird things. Just kind of asserting that it's an impossibility seems silly to me. So
So
yeah, I don't think,
I think you can't be religious and not like, I mean, you can be, of course, a religious Jew, but the religious Jews who are not Zionists by the, like most Haredi normal, which are the majority, definition, they're not even considered for them Jews. They're considered Gais Chamshi, they're considered Erev Rav, they're not considered as authentic and true Jews, because Jews, like religious Jews, we believe that we need to be here. There should be Shivat Zion. We need to be here. We need to make Aliyah here in order for the time of the Messiah to come.
Yeah, most religious Jews do believe that, but when you talk about the
you have to be a Zionist.
Yeah, well, yeah, according to them, but in many Orthodox communities, they don't actually believe it.
Exactly, but you have to see, like, again, the radical Orthodox communities. First of all, they're not the majority. They're not the majority, and
Sure,
they're being religious Jews, so-called religious Jews, and they're not Zionists. And some of them live here. What?
I just want to clarify. You don't consider them religious?
I don't
so-called
like, they could claim that they're Jews all they want, but they are not in line, in my opinion, they're not in line with the core values of Judaism, the true core values of Judaism.
Oh, well then, do you mind me asking what are the true core values of Judaism?
Again, you have to believe that the third temple is going to be here only when we make Shivat Zion, only when we come back from exile. We're right now religiously considered to be at the exile of Ishmael. Okay, we were before that at the exile of Esav. Like Esav is considered.
Yeah, they believe all that. They just believe you should only have Shivat Zion when the Messiah comes. That's all.
Again, so the core values that most of the Jews uphold, which I consider, if you're most of the Jews and you uphold that, and you've been scattered throughout the globe, and most of the Jews came back here or are still living abroad, and they think the same. Like if it walks like a duck, and if it walks like a duck, and talks like a duck, and looks like a duck, it's a duck. You know.
I don't know. Actually, I struggle to follow your argument because, like,
my argument is that they are not. The core value is that in Judaism that you have to be here first in order. There are a lot of like things that should happen in order for the Messiah to come, but one of them is that you have to be here first. You have to be here.
Well, no. The general Jewish idea doesn't say that you have to be here for the Messiah to come. The general idea says that when the Messiah comes, you will come here. Right? That's my understanding. Maybe I'm missing something.
No, that's the radical Jewish Orthodox Jews perspective.
No, it's all rabbinic interpretation. That's how.
No, it's not all rabbinic interpretation. The most of the rabbinic interpretation is that you have to have Shivat Zion. You need to come back from exile in order to bring back the Messiah.
Could you, like, from the top of your mind, name like a rabbi that would corroborate this idea that you first need to come here and then the Messiah will come?
You can listen to Rabbi Zamir Cohen. You could listen to.
Yeah, sure. Like, where can I find him saying that you first need to come here and then?
So you look up. He has a lot of lessons. He's considered to be one of the knowledgeable rabbis of our generation.
I don't think.
And he has lessons. And he has lessons about the coming of Messiah, or Parashot Shavua, where they're talking about it, or Haftarot.
Avital, I listen to him a lot. I'm familiar with his content, and he's pretty controversial rabbi. But I never heard him say that a condition for the Messiah to come is us first coming to Israel. I know he's not objecting.
Well, I
if I can just finish my statement to clarify, I just want to clarify.
So I did hear that in not one of his lessons, but in many of his lessons. I also went through conversion.
So
I know what the general Orthodox Jewish Orthodox community, the mainstream Orthodox community, which are the majority, what is their view on the upcoming and the Messiah, and that's what we were taught in the conversion when I was converted.
So because I want to learn and educate myself, right? I want to look it up. So where can I look up this idea, this rabbinic idea of first coming here and then the Messiah will come? Because all I know and all I was taught is the exact opposite. That actually the Jews swore to not come back here until the Messiah will come.
But again, you're talking about the
times of Chazal, by the way.
Okay, can you give me an example?
What, of the Shlosha Shvuot? That's an example?
What? Give me an example.
Is an example of rabbinic Judaism making commitment to not come here.
Which rabbinic interpretation is that? Who's the rabbi?
I think all rabbis accept it. Like I never heard of a rabbi that does not accept it. Even the Reformed rabbis accept it.
So how can you say the Baal Shem Tov, his dream was to come here and he came here?
Yeah, sure. I'll explain.
Rabbi Milubavitch claimed that loads of time, that we have to come back here in order for the Messiah to come. The only reason that he stayed in New York is because he started the Chabadnik movement, and he saw himself, like his role in his time life is to spread help for Jews across the globe, because he saw what the Soviet Union regime does to Jews.
So to clarify what people like Rabbi Milubavitch was saying and some other rabbis, when they talked about coming here, maybe I should have made this distinction earlier, but what they meant is living here, not establishing a state here. Not the rabbi of Lubavitch, not any other rabbi claims that you have to.
What is the religious or hilchati
like the Hebrew law?
the Hebrew law that says that we are not supposed to make here a state?
Shlosha Shvuot. That's the Hebrew
Okay,
law.
so can you explain the Shlosha Shvuot? Because I look at the Torah first of all,
sure.
and later at Chazal, and the Torah claims otherwise.
Well, you do realize the Torah itself gives authority to people like Chazal to make Jewish laws that sometimes overwrite.
Okay, yeah, it says that in the book of Deuteronomy. It says that whatever your so-called rabbi would tell you to do, lo tasur yamin u'smol. So I do know that, but it also says in Parashat Shoftim, Shoftim v'shotrim titen lecha b'chol sha'arecha. There's a system. You can see that in the history of King David and King Solomon. There's a system to uphold the Jewish nation.
Well, yeah, but there's no obligation to.
Of course it is. Here, I told you in the Torah, Shoftim v'shotrim titen lecha b'chol sha'arecha.
Yeah, it's talking about the existing Jewish state. It doesn't talk about Zionism or re-establishing a Jewish state.
Okay, so you need to.
Well, let me just get a few words in, just so you can understand.
Yeah, sure.
Just so you can understand my position. Like some things, some teachings in the Torah are historically relative, so they might be true for a certain time, but not for another time. Like for example, Chazon Ish, right? He changed some Hebrew laws that Rambam established because he said those are incompatible with our modern time. So Chazon Ish changed them, right?
Of course. Also did Rav Ovadia Yosef when he allowed Sephardic women to have their nails done and they can go into the mikveh.
Okay, great. So we agree on that. So
yes, but there's a difference between rabbinic halakha change and the Torah. You cannot change the laws of the Torah. You cannot at some point, no rabbi at some point can say, oh, you can mix a steak with milk. You know, no rabbi in the world can say that.
Actually, they do. They have the authority to do so, right?
Because no, they can't. No, they can't.
Why not?
It also says that it says in the book of Deuteronomy, the reason why I'm quoting it so much is because it's called Mishneh Torah. So they basically just review most of the mitzvahs, if not all of them, throughout this last chumash of the Torah, right? That's like Moses' farewell before he goes up to the mountain and dies, and the Jewish nation, the Hebrew nation, the Israelites go into Israel with Yoshua bin Nun. So he says that the Lord told him that he would pick a Navi, like a prophet, to talk to them. And how would you know that the prophet is a false prophet? How would you know that? If the false prophet is trying to, how did it say that? I lost the word. If the prophet is telling you basically, oh, you see this law in the Torah, we're not going to do it anymore. Okay, so he's a false prophet, and you should stone him.
Right. So here's the problem with this idea, though. Right?
Yeah.
Why it's problematic? Because if you look at the law and you say it's contradicting the Torah, right?
Why?
What gives you the authority to determine what the Torah says, right? What gives you the authority to do so?
Okay, so for example, it's because you have 4 stages of understanding the Torah. It's called Pardes. Do you know what it is?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so there are a lot of laws in Judaism, both for the Aseh and also the Al Taseh, that are just understood as they are. You know?
But who tells you to understand them?
Of course, you need to clarify into details. For example,
but here's the problem, Avital. Here's the problem with this whole idea. Is that even when you try to determine which laws are aseh ve'al taseh, which laws are under some kind of different standard, it all comes from rabbinic teachings. So to begin with, when you understand divine command, right, you understand it through the rabbinic perspective. They have the ultimate authority to interpret.
No, God has the ultimate authority. Moses has the Torah has the ultimate authority. You cannot say if there's a commandment, one of the commandments in the 10 commandments is lot enough. Okay, it's pretty clear what it means.
Well, not to everybody. People have different understandings of what ni'uf means. Actually, it's pretty debatable in the Jewish community.
Can you give me an example? Like, what is the debate of ni'uf?
Yeah, sure. So, infidelity considered ni'uf, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, I would argue most, even rabbis nowadays, don't agree with the Hebrew laws that states you should execute adulterous women.
Well, right? That's right.
But many do. But many say, no, we should keep the Torah exactly as it states. We should execute adulterous women. So that's a debatable subject about ni'uf.
But the core of the halakha is that you shouldn't commit adultery, because instead of stoning the woman, there is still a punishment for that woman.
Even about the definition of the word adultery is debated in terms of Jewish ethics. Like, what if, for example, you have a girlfriend, right?
You can't have a girlfriend and live with her and commit.
No, I'm not talking about living.
Okay, so
you can have relationships, right? You don't have to live with her, right?
You can't.
Yes, I'm agreeing. You can. Well, it depends on which rabbi you follow. Some rabbis say you can. What doesn't mean? Doesn't matter.
Most of the rabbis, like the really Haredi rabbis that
Yeah,
like,
the Orthodox rabbis no, but the national Zionist rabbis will be more flexible on this issue.
okay, but you're talking about like different streams. I'm talking about the mainstream. The mainstream would tell you.
Well, wait. The Orthodox community is a minority within the religious overall community. They're not the majority.
I mean,
Israel.
I can tell you that I did live with my boyfriend before we got married. But if I really appreciate a rabbi, what?
No, I'm just joking. I said, how dare you?
But if I go, like, there are a couple of modern rabbis that I really appreciate, and most of the people in Israel appreciate, like Rabbi Shayaw Pinto, Rav Inuka. Like, these are very, very forefront rabbis right now who are being taken very seriously. It's not just rabbis that you listen to and go to their lessons. These are rabbis that are really determining halacha now. You know?
They have great authority. I see what you're saying.
Exactly. They have great authority. If I would go to this rabbi and he would ask me, one of these rabbis, and he would ask me, did you live with your boyfriend prior to getting married? I would be kind of embarrassed to say that I did.
But Avital, I agree with you. There's no point talking about because I already agree with it. Generally, rabbis don't accept living with other people, right?
Yeah.
I agree with you. I'm on the same page. Now, when it comes to I kind of forgot what the conversation was about. What we were talking about initially?
We were saying that like the whole Torah is like the polar of the Torah is the rabbinic interpretation, the Chazal interpretation, and I say that even the Chazal interpretation, there are some things in the Torah that are just straightforward, like, but the nitty gritty of it is what the Chazal interpretations and the rabbinic halacha, that's what they talk about, right?
Well, here's a question. Let's say there's a rabbi, right? Hypothetically, right?
Mm-hmm.
You claim there's a thing in the Torah that is straightforward. And he says, actually, I don't think it's straightforward. I think it's debatable. Or maybe he says, I agree that it's straightforward, but it's not what you're saying, it's what I'm saying. How would you go about determining who's right and who's wrong in this situation?
I mean, if you look about one of the commandments, lo tirtzach, it's pretty straight obvious.
No, it's maybe the least obvious thing, like debating what
constitutes.
Why? Well, because there are so many issues debatable about what constitutes murder. Like,
okay, give an example.
For example, like general people agree that self-defense doesn't constitute murder, correct?
Yeah.
But what should constitute a self-defense is highly debatable. Like what would be considered excessive force, right?
Okay, so for example...
Wait, hold on. Let me just clarify the position so I make sure you understand it, okay?
Yeah.
Like people can debate what would constitute excessive force, right? If you use excessive force, then it's murder. If not, then it's not murder. And different people can have different ideas about it. And it is being debated in the Talmud, right?
Yeah.
This commandment is being debated in the Talmud. What constitutes self-defense?
So, for example, there is an example of that. There is a law that is going from the core value of you shall not murder. For example, there's the story of one of the how do you say aficha? I forgot.
Revolution.
Yeah, but it's not like a revolution. It's more like a coup. You know, one of the coups that was tried on King David, and he had lots in his life. But one of the coups that was tried by King David that was against Shaul's reign. In one of them, the fighters of King David, they were winning the fighters of Shaul, and the commander of of Shaul's army, he was running away. Right, when he saw that everything goes to shit, basically, he ran away. Right, and the law states that if he runs away, you cannot keep running after him and try to kill him. You can't do that. And there were two brothers in the fight of in one of the David's fighters. There were four runners. There were two brothers, and one of them ran after the commander of Shaul's army. He had the right to kill him, so much so that the brother who is left alive, and he was very appreciated by King David and very loved by King David, he pleaded him to kill that commander, and he said, I can't, because he was allowed out of self-defense to kill him, because there's a rule about akam leorgecha ashkem leorgo.
Sure, I'm just not sure how does it address the argument. Like I argued,
because there are the
what was my argument? Do you remember?
Your argument is basically that we depend on interpretations.
Well, no,
right?
after that, when we discuss murder.
Okay, so on murder, you, for example, said that there is no specification on killing that happens through self-defense. And I'm saying...
Not exactly. I said that some issues about self-defense, what constitutes self-defense, are debatable. So I just want to clarify.
So I just stated one example. I've just stated one example for you on how it wasn't debatable at the time.
Yes, but I stated one example for you, which is debatable.
Okay, which is, again?
Which is the use of excessive force.
Can you give like an event in the Torah or an event in the Jewish community that people were actually having a debate about it?
About using excessive force?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, sure, like Cain and Abel is like a prime example of using excessive force. Like, you could perhaps argue that Cain had legitimate grievance with Abel, right? But he shouldn't have unalived him for it. That seems a bit much, right? So, like, if he would slap him on the wrist, I don't think anybody would talk about it. So that would be one example. But I just don't think that I need to give a specific example. I can just demonstrate it as like a philosophical concept that can exist and show you that it's being debated in the Talmud.
No, that's of course you can say, you can take anything in the Torah and debate about it, right? But you still, my stance is that there are some rules in the Torah that by all rabbinic, all Jewish communities throughout are plain and simple, and there's no left and right from it. Like,
but
self-defense was and still considered a killing, okay, an unaliving, but not a murder. There's a difference between unaliving and a murder.
Yes, but what constitutes a murder is still debatable, and I just gave you an example, a philosophical example.
Why? If you are murdering someone, you do it out of malice. The reason is malice. Malice could be out of greed. Malice could be out of jealousy. Okay. For example, the Cain and Hevel story, the event. Okay. The point of the malice was jealousy. Cain was jealous of Abel, and a lot of people think it was because God accepted his offering. It's one of the things, but initially.
Yeah, but Avital, my argument is, well, does excessive force constitute malice, and how do you judge and estimate excessive force? And that is something that is debatable within Jewish ethics, right? And you still didn't address it, like, at all.
But you gave an example about Cain and Hevel that if he would slap him on the wrist, it's not murder. So it doesn't address the point.
Yeah, but it would be perhaps self-defense or like an outcome of a legitimate grievance.
Well, it's not a murder if he's slapping him on the wrist.
Yeah, I agree that it's not murder. What I'm arguing is what would constitute excessive force is debatable. And that was example.
Okay, give me an example of like what could have been an excessive force in the Cain and Abel story that would be like for you dramatic excessive force.
Well, murdering him, obviously.
Okay, but we're talking about murder. We're not talking about violence. We're talking about murder.
But when we're talking about murder, we're talking about whether there's consensus about the use of excessive force. And I'm saying, no, different people can disagree of what constitutes excessive force within the context of murder or outside of it, right? Like in the example of Cain and Abel, I'll just give you an example of an example outside of the confines of murder. But I could just as easily give you an example.
No, but I want you to give me an example within the realm of murder. That one event that didn't use, in your opinion, or through better for rabbinic opinion, one murder that was an excessive force and was right on the dot, and another murder that did use excessive force.
Well, just to clarify what you're asking me to find you a case of murder which was debatable. Like, was it actually a murder or not, right?
Yes.
Well, I can try to think of like a specific example from the top of my head. I'm pretty sure I can find one if you just give me a minute. But just so you understand, as a matter of principle, I don't even need to give you a specific example. Like, just to show you that the concept is being debated, right? Like, right?
Yeah, you do, because so far you have been sharing like your personal ideology, but it doesn't have a stance.
Oh, no,
you didn't show me a debate, an actual Talmud or rabbinic debate.
Oh, so you want? That's fine. I can show you a rabbinic debate about use of excessive force. I'm not sure they would be giving examples from the Torah exactly.
They have to.
Well, no,
everything that the rabbis are stating as halakha or as a.
It's not. It doesn't have to be directly derived from the Torah.
It has to.
No, in fact, you have distinction.
It has to. It cannot.
Well, let me just make my position, then you can state yours, right?
Yes.
There's a distinction in Judaism between halachot, which are from the Oraita, which means from the Torah, and from the Rabbanan, which are based on rabbinic teachings, which don't have sourcing in the Torah, which deal with new concepts.
Okay, but that's your confusion. That's your confusion because for example, having a Shabbat dinner on Friday night is halakha mideoraita. Okay, it means that it has like straight Torah roots from it. Okay. Yeah. But for example, having the Seudah Shniyah, the Seudah Shlishit on Saturday morning and on Saturday afternoon or evening, it's not mandatory from the Torah. It's mandatory from Chazal. But Chazal cannot take the first Seudah, which is on Friday night. They cannot eliminate it because it's rooted in the Torah. It's stated plain and simple in the Torah. They cannot contradict it. You cannot say if there's a state law that you shall not murder.
What we're talking about right now. We are talking about the fact that rabbis can make halakha without giving sourcing in the Torah, and you just give an example of one, where they don't have to give you an example of a story from the Torah. They just have a philosophical debate about it, right? Or they kind of evolving a philosophical idea without having a specific example.
Yes, but I mean,
well, then I don't have to give an example
at
like that as well.
At the end of the day, they will find a source from the Torah that is implying of it.
Oh,
Okay.
so it's implying. So they don't have to find a story where something exactly like that happens, right? They just
Every sentence in the Torah implies about one of the rules, one of the Taryag mitzvot.
Right. So when people think about what the sentences imply, right, they can arrive to different ideas. Correct? Is that correct?
It is correct, but there's
Yes, right.
a mainstream.
So,
It's usually a mainstream.
Hold on. If they can arrive to different ideas of implication, how would you determine which one of two people is right? You gave an example of things that are like definitive, like murder, right? But even then, I just gave you evidence of rabbis debating the philosophical concept of what is murder, what constitutes murder.
But you're just answering your own question. If it says you shall not murder, the fact that you're debating on what a murder is means that you're consenting that there shouldn't be a murder.
Well, no.
You're trying to understand. If you're trying to understand what constitutes a murder, you're basically trying to give a definition to murder, thus believing that murder, the concept of murdering, is somehow existing in the world, and you should uphold by it to not do it.
You can't agree to the concept if you have disagreement about the concept itself, right? So if me and you, we agree that murder is bad.
No, but you're saying, hold on, but you're saying something different. You're saying that you cannot believe the concept if there are different, like multiple understandings.
Maybe I can clarify what I'm saying, right? So I'm saying we can semantically use the same word, right? But in our minds, we will mean completely different concepts. Like, for example, we can both say murder is wrong, but I would be speaking on one thing, one idea of murder, and you would be speaking on another. So
okay, so give me an idea, give me an event of murder that you think is not a murder.
Just hypothetically or from the Bible?
No, from the Torah, from the Bible, yeah. From the entire Bible.
Look, if you're persistent, I can find one, but like I just told you, I don't have to do it because rabbis don't do it when they make halacha.
Of course they do it.
No,
you know that the Kriyat Shema, you had to firstly say only no vayayim avta vayayim shamua tishmeu. That these were, it used to be Kriyat Shema, used to be just these two verses, okay? But at some point, they decided to add the tzitzit, verse, and that was because the rabbi who said that we should do it, he found a source from the Torah that is aligned with that belief. He didn't make it up on his own. He read the Torah, and his interpretation led to that thinking, and it was accepted by the majority. But it relied on the Torah.
It relied on interpretation of the Torah, not on the Torah itself.
But the Torah, but most of the Torah, I mean, there are straightforward things.
Okay, so it relied on a certain interpretation of the Torah. You would agree with it, right?
I mean, what I meant to say is that there are things that you can interpret from the Torah and are not plain simple, okay? But there are things in the Torah that are plain simple.
Yes, so what I'm saying is you can see that some things in the Torah, like use of excessive force, are implicit in the Torah, like in the story of Cain and Abel, and people can from that derive that not everything can constitute murder, and people can have disagreements about it. Like, that would be a source from the Torah.
I don't think there's any person that doesn't believe that the story of Cain and Abel is not a murder.
But there are plenty of people who believe that maybe it's a case of, let's take modern case of Elor Azaria. I think there are plenty of people who believe what he did was murder. So it is something that is debatable, like the use of excessive force.
Okay,
right?
But that's not a religious debate.
No, it is religious. Like if it's a murder from the perspective of Jewish ethics, it's completely religious. Of course.
It's not completely religious because the way he was put to court and the way that the sentence was decided was not by Jewish laws.
It doesn't have to be. We can still think, well, would he be considered a murderer from the perspective of Jewish ethics, right?
Yes.
Yes. So
by the Jewish ethics, he didn't murder him. That's what most of the believing Jewish community said, that he didn't murder him.
Plenty of members of the Jewish community said that he did.
I never saw one.
Okay, then I
never saw one Jewish person, religious Jew, that actually claimed that he murdered him, except those who don't believe that we should be here in the first place.
Well, there are religious Jews who believe we shouldn't be here in the first place, right?
Yes, but I don't consider them Jews, and neither the mainstream Jewish community.
Well, no, the mainstream
Jewish
community
there is still something
that's not true.
There's still something that's called Gais Chamishi ve'erev Rav.
But even guys Chamishi ve'erev Rav are still part of our nation. Like they're not stopping being Jewish because of traitors or something like that, right?
Right? I mean, not really.
Yes, they're still part of our nation.
They're part of the nation that will dissolve, that will disappear, be extinct when the Messiah will come.
Maybe, but are they Jewish?
Well, they are.
They are. Yes, that's correct. They are. Yeah.
They are Jewish, but to most mainstream Jewish community, they don't share the core values of Judaism.
Well,
They don't.
Well, they do, but like at least from a religious perspective, like if you go about the 13 core tenets of Judaism, they follow them, which is generally the criteria on whether you consider someone Jewish or not. But if you just want to say a Jew is anyone who agrees with me, anyone who disagrees with me is not a Jew, I mean, you can go based off this standard. But I just want to say, most, like in the rabbinic realm, like most people accept them as being Jews. They might.
I don't think that I don't. Most rabbinic realm does not accept Neturei Karta as Jews.
Based on what? Like, do you have a source for that?
Yeah.
Like, okay, I'll look it up. Maybe I'll change my mind.
So I mean, Google.
Here's my understanding.
Google rabbi's opinion, Israeli rabbi's opinion about Neturei Karta, and you will see that they are not considered even Jews. They're considered aliens to the Jews.
No, they are considered traitors, right? But they're still considered Jewish, right? That's what I would find. If I would look up.
But if you're a traitor, that means that you, for example, there are laws in Judaism that state that if you disobey those laws, you're no longer a Jew.
Yeah, but those are established by the 13 core tenets of Judaism, which the Neturei Karta follow.
Hold on a second. I had an example in my head and I just lost it. Hold on.
Like in my mind, I'll explain my position. In my mind, any Jew, like religiously, who follows the Yud Gimel Ikarim, the 13 core tenets of Judaism, is a Jew, right? Just according to the Rambam, how he proposed.
Okay, so my example came back to me. So the 13 core values, in them, there's nothing that says that you have to have, that you cannot eat pork, right? They don't talk about it. But did you know that if you eat pork, yesh lecha onesh karet?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so you're not considered once you eat, and that's like throughout the Jewish community, once you eat pork, you're not a Jew anymore. So you agree with me that somebody that even considers himself a Jew, at some point, if he slides off, he's not considered a Jew anymore.
Yeah, well, the problem in your argument here is that he does mention it in the Gimel Karim by saying you have to believe in the Torah as true, right?
Of course, yes.
Right, and if it says in the Torah that you can't eat pork, and you eat pork, then you violate the Gimel Karim.
Well,
you see my point?
Yes.
Yeah. So moving on to debating excessive force, right, and murder.
Okay.
Right? Would you like to see maybe a Talmudic reference to debates regarding just in general what constitutes murder? Like, for example, another example I can give you is when the Rambam said you can murder atheists, right? Are you familiar with this teaching?
You can murder atheists?
Well, it wouldn't be murder from his perspective. It would be justified, but yes.
Atheists who are
non-believers, Jews who apikorsim, what we call in Hebrew apikorsim.
Okay, yeah.
The Rambam says you can unalive those guys.
Okay, but you still have the nationalist laws. You still have secular laws that are. I'm not justifying it, but you have laws.
I don't want to interrupt you, but we're not talking about secular. We're talking purely from religious perspective. Is it debatable
that if he's a Jew that's atheist, you can murder him? Yeah, it could be debatable.
Right. One rabbi can dispute this, like Chazon Ish, which is a very well-known rabbi, like the Jerusalem Orthodox.
Yeah, I know who the Chazon Ish.
How do you say Peleg Yerushalmi in English, by the way? I'm curious.
The Yerushalmic fracture.
Yeah, maybe the Jerusalem denomination. Would that be fine?
Yeah.
Right. So he's like the head rabbi of the Jerusalem denomination, like the big guy of them.
Yeah.
Right. He is objecting to this statement of the rabbi, and he revoked it. He said, actually, it's not justified to unalive atheists. So that's an example, and he did argue that it would constitute murder. So that's an example of a debate around murder. Sure, it happened between like huge gaps of time, but it's a debatable concept.
Okay.
So,
makes your point.
Yeah, so I think everything, like, especially if people want to like argue in bad faith, like they want to be really nitty-gritty, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You cherry pick on things and find anything that's debatable, right?
Yep.
And as Jews, you know us, we like to nitpick about little things and debate them. You know how they say
we've done that for thousands of years.
Yeah, you know how they say you have two Jews in one room, you have 3 opinions?
Nachon.
Yeah.
They should have said 70.
and that's why I think it's so important to leave the authority to the rabbis. And I think there are like objective laws that are outlined, what we call drash in Hebrew law, right?
Yeah.
Which outline systems in which we can interpret certain points in the Torah.
But how do you know, like, from your personal opinion? I understand that you're religious.
Yeah. Well, I want to clarify. I don't know also how to. It doesn't really translate well to English. I'm Masorti. Like,
oh, okay.
you would translate it like literally to be traditional, right? But it doesn't translate well. Like, it doesn't carry the same meaning in English.
No, but no, traditional does, because if you're a Masorti and you're a traditional Jew, it means that you're, from my interpretation, for example, it means that what I assume, and you didn't tell me what like is your interpretation of traditional Jew, so I would assume that you celebrate the holidays.
Oh, I can be specific. I can tell you what I mean.
No, but I want to guess, because that's the whole thing of interpretation, right?
Okay,
So
sure.
I would assume that you celebrate the holidays. I would assume that you believe in prayer, that you believe in God. I would assume that you have Shabbat dinner, and that you might even keep Shabbat to some extent, right?
Do you want me to answer? Because I don't want to ruin the surprise for you, Avital.
Yeah.
Yeah, I keep Shabbat to the fullest. I celebrate the holidays, obviously. Like, keep the holidays, what we call Din Yom Tov. In the holidays.
So in what aspects are you, like, not religious but traditional?
So it depends on by which denomination we're going. For example, I'm not a Shomer Negiah. Like, I can shake a hand of a female friend or something, right?
Okay, yeah. So you're not Haredi?
No, I'm not even. I wouldn't even consider myself like dati, like religious fully. I would consider myself traditional, right? Like, I don't wear a kippah.
I mean, no. I mean, my husband doesn't wear kippah, but he wears tzitzit. He goes to the synagogue. He prays. He keeps Shabbat. But because he doesn't wear a yarmulke, I mean, I don't think he's not religious because of that.
Well, I don't wear a tzitzit either. So I think the way Jews present themselves, like, plays a big part in how you would consider them, like, religious, orthodox, traditional, right?
Yeah.
People tend to, like, based on their observations, to, like, categorize people, right?
Fun.
So I think most people would categorize me as traditional because I don't, like, visibly appear religious, I guess.
Why? You could be Dati Leumi. Most of the Dati Leumi community, they do shake the hands of women.
Yeah, but most of them also wear tzitzit.
Most of them.
Yeah. And now I believe I should wear tzitzit. Like, I accept this as a Jewish teaching. I just don't do it for. We can get into this, but let's just say, for the sake of the discussion, personal reasons, right?
Yeah.
So because of this distinction, I consider myself traditional, not fully religious. Like, as I said to the host before, I don't know if you've heard, I told her I could be a better Jew.
Well, I also think that I could be a better Jew, but I believe that God has his own path for every person, and every person needs, I mean, for example, you can take the atheist Jews. In a lot of rabbinic worldviews, they're considered tinokot shenishbu, meaning like they're babies who've been captive by false ideologies. You know, they've been raised in this house, they have been raised in this community, and their own personal path is starting from that place and reaching a higher spiritual level, you know?
Yeah.
While other people are born into these communities, but their struggles and their things that God has placed in front of them are supposed to lechashel otam, like.
Yeah, to
The whole point is to reach a higher spiritual level of Judaism, but each person does that from a different stage.
I just want to push back against this idea because I do struggle with it. You say God has a path for everybody, right?
Well, to some extent.
Oh, so sometimes he doesn't, like, right?
It's not that he doesn't. It's just that there's a rule of thumb that states that akol b'idei shamayim chutz mirat shamayim. You know, everything in the world is God's choice, except if you choose to believe him or not.
Oh, okay, fine. Well, let's just follow this trend. So if it's not God's choice, whether you choose to believe him or not, right?
It's not God's choice to decide for you.
Oh, yeah. Sorry,
if you believe or not.
Yeah, I totally mixed it up. What I meant to say is, it's not God's choice whether you believe in him or not, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's my responsibility to believe in God and practice and worship God to the full extent how he expects me to do, right?
It's your responsibility to make that effort, like taking into consideration your upbringing, your community, your struggles, like everything is being taken.
Well, we don't know them for sure. We don't know exactly like what God wants us to. Like we can't read God's mind, obviously. But I think we can have a pretty good idea based on what he tells us, right? And if I know what God
again, it comes to interpretation. You know, a lot of the Yemenite community that made Aliyah to Israel, when they did that, they were keeping Shabbat, but they were turning on their TVs and they were turning on the light because they didn't believe that
Yeah, they
doing
didn't have
either of those, they didn't believe that doing either of those is Chilul Shabbat. They also don't believe till this day, they don't believe in Tishat Yamim from Aleph Be'av until Tisha B'Av that you can't eat meat.
Yeah, okay, fine. Okay, but are they correct when they're doing it? So, like, is it,
Again, it's their interpretation.
yeah, but from
And also they're considered to be the most resembling thing to ancient Judaism that we have.
maybe they are, maybe they aren't. But the fact of the matter is, if you like really water it down, is they can either be true, as in fulfilling the will of God, or not. It couldn't be both things at the same time.
It could be both things at the same time.
They can be fulfilling God's will and not fulfilling God's will at the same time by doing the exact same thing.
No, I mean, we don't know which one's
Oh,
true.
I agree that we don't know, but we know that there is one truth, correct?
So
So they could either be correct or wrong, right?
in that sort of interpretation, yes, but
Well, I just assumed, maybe I was wrong. If you believe in God, you must believe that there's an objective truth, objective reality, right?
there is an objective truth, but there is a stem of an objective truth. I think
what?
there's a stem of an objective truth. I mean, like there's a tree of objective truth and it has like roots of interpretation, you know, but there is a core value of truth. There's not one Jew that doesn't believe that God created everything we see. And that's the objective truth. That's where everything starts.
Right, but could two interpretations of objective truth, which are contradicting each other, be true at the same time?
In like the human realm, in the flesh and blood and everything, yeah,
No,
we see that. We see that people have different interpretation. Which one is true? Only when you get to heaven. Only when you die, you know.
Maybe, but is it true that only one of them can be right at the same time? They can't, if they're contradicting, they can be both
Yes,
right.
yes.
Yes, there's only one. Okay, so we agree. So when the Yemeni Jews decide to turn on the light on Shabbat, they could either be justified in doing so or not justified, right? They can be both at the same time. And if they're justified in doing so, then we are the fools who don't turn the light on Shabbat and don't use electricity.
Yes, but there's also a thing in Judaism where, and there are a lot of fractions in Judaism that don't believe this rule because they're so glued to the way that, like, to their own fractions rules. But in my personal belief, I think that as long as you believe that God created everything, that God is always watching, and that you are waking up every day, thanking Him for waking up and doing the best you can to be a good person, especially a good Jew, by the power and the abilities that you are doing. For example, I'm a teacher, right? So I would always say to my classmates, to my students, I'm sorry, that someone's 100% that he gives in a test is not the same 100% that the other person did. But it's not about the score that counts. It counts about how much you pushed yourself, how much really percentage you gave in order to succeed, right? That's the real core thing. So that's the same, in my opinion, the same goes to Judaism. As long as you really believe that God exists, He created everything, and we should be good, like as much upholding.
I think I get what you're saying. Just let me make sure I understand it correctly. You're saying like religion and God's will is basically culturally relative, right? So what He might want for some culture is different than what He would want for some other culture.
It's not even one culture. It's going down to the person itself.
Yeah, even down to, when we speak about Yemenis, like they turn on the light because they came from the Yemeni culture, which didn't believe in those kind of things, right? But they still were doing.
Yes, but I do believe that these people, when they come to the day of judgment and everything, this is something that is not going to be held against them because they did it כאילו מה שנקרא בשוגג, לא במזיד.
Yeah. Well,
even if it's not true, right?
Here's the problem with your idea. Like, I agree with the idea of בשוגג ובמזיד, right? I agree with the whole idea. I just think your understanding of it is a little bit flawed, and I think I can demonstrate why.
Okay.
So I don't know if I can say this word on TikTok, so I'll just use something different. Try to understand what I'm saying, okay?
Okay.
PDF file, okay? Let's talk about this.
Yes. Okay.
Right? Oh,
they say it on TikTok, a P file.
Kid diddlers, let's call them, right? The kid diddlers.
Yes.
Right. Those guys can potentially mess with children and believe they're actually, like, genuinely actually believe they're doing what God wants them to do because He created them this way and all that.
Oh, there are people who believe that.
Yeah, sure. They would be doing it b'shogeg, not b'mezid, right? They would be doing it they wouldn't be causing harm unintentionally because in their mind they genuinely believe that's what God wants them to do. But do you think God wouldn't judge them for what they've done to the full extent of Hebrew law, I guess?
Again, there are things in the Bible that are pretty straightforward. Gilui Arayot is pretty straightforward. Molesting,
well, we already debated the straightforwardness, and I think I managed to convince you that nothing is really, really that straightforward. But even if it is, let's just say for the sake of the argument, it is straightforward. Let's just say the kid diddler is really, really stupid. He's just really stupid. He doesn't understand even the most straightforward commandments, right? But he genuinely believes it's not his fault that he's dumb, right? He genuinely believes that what he's doing is right. Would God punish him for what he's doing?
Again, that means that he was b'mezid. B'shogeg, sorry, not b'mezid.
Okay, yeah.
If you're doing something b'mezid, it means that you know it's wrong and you do it. That's it.
Yeah, so I'm asking.
So my entire point is that God will view it differently if it does in shogeg. And he would look at the person's circumstances.
Okay, so I'm asking. Just to clarify, you think he wouldn't, because he views it differently, do you think he will not punish the child guy?
Again, if you're talking about a person, for example.
No, I already explained. He's not doing it intentionally. He doesn't realize that what he's doing is wrong. He's messing with children and he thinks it's perfect. It's the perfect conduct a person could do, right? He's like the Prophet Muhammad in Islam. He's like the perfect person. Right? Would God punish him if he unintentionally harms those children without the intention to do so?
Oh, that's a difficult question.
Yeah, it's a difficult question, which is why I think the Shogeg and Mezid is not that simple.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think certain things it's irrelevant if.
But what do you consider an objective truth? Like in your own personal view, you must have one.
Like in a metaphysical, epistemological sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So I would consider truth anything that can be logically demonstrated.
That's a really scientific view, though. It's not a religious view.
Well, in my religious view, logic.
So why do you keep Shabbat?
Well, I believe logically is the right thing to do. I believe logically, Torat Moshe Emet, right? That the religion is true. I believe that logic is part of God. I actually consider the idea that God can be illogical.
So essentially, you don't believe in objective truth. You believe in each person should have his own objective truth.
No, how did you get that?
Because there are Jewish people who don't believe Torat Moshe Sinai.
Yeah, but they're objectively wrong, right? Because it's an illogical position, right? That's my perspective.
But the fact that it's your perspective, it just states the fact that it's an objective truth. It's your own truth and not an objective truth.
Well,
what makes
my perspective, like I can't possibly hold any position which is objective, right? It would have to be subjective because it's subject to my own mind, like philosophically. But it can be congruent with objective truth, right? And I can arrive to the objective truth through the means of logic, right? And that ties into the idea that logic is part of God, like they're not distinct ideas.
For someone who doesn't believe in God, they are distinct.
Yeah, but they're wrong. Like logically, like you can demonstrate logically.
Why? There's the Mapatsnik on TikTok. There's the Mapatsnik. He believes that logic. He uses plenty of logic. I disagree with him, but like he uses plenty of logic and scientific data, and he backs himself up of the thinking that there's no God.
Look, he uses logic fallaciously, and he spews nonsense because he can't use logic properly. But if you use logic properly, you can arrive to the objective truth, right? People can misinterpret the objective rules of logic, right?
What would you say to a person who doesn't believe in God and doesn't want to keep Shabbat? How would you logically approach him to make him see that this is an objective truth and not a personal truth?
Well, it would have to go into a whole theological debate about like the reality of God, what we call Metziut Hashem in religion, right? And how I can arrive to it logically from completely secular position. But I would have this argument with him, and I would tell it to him, and I do it many times. Like I debate often. It's not this is not my debating channel. It's just my private channel. But I have those debates all the time.
But it seems like a lot of those people are not accepting the objective truth. So, but if it's an objective truth, it should be something that is like.
Yeah, like people can
reach to an explanation that would convince them.
Yeah, sure. I think I can reach this if they genuinely appeal. Like if we can both agree on the three core rules of logic. Like philosophically, there are three core rules of logic in philosophy. If we can agree on them, I can prove to anybody that God is real and the Jewish God is real and the Judaism is real based on this premise.
For example, I'm an atheist. Okay, I'm not, but like for the sake of the example, I'm an atheist. So if you could explain those three rules and tell me why God is real, just so I could like.
You really want to get into the theological discussion of how do you know God is real?
Why not? Do we have anything else to talk about right now?
Well, I'll be honest with you. My primary concern is that it will take up quite a bit of time, and I'm getting a little bit of tired. It's quite late here in Israel.
No, I'm also in Israel, so I know.
Yeah, but you know, some people stay up late.
Yeah.
I'm like I have stuff to do tomorrow, but sure, I can give you the basic idea of how I would go about it. Sure, sounds fair.
Yeah.
Right. So let's establish the three rules. And by the way, I just want to make a side comment. Like to the host, you were very generous. I feel like we hijacked your channel completely.
Yeah.
I'll just wrap it up real quick. I'm sorry that I was like.
I'm supposed to go soon, so.
Like the three rules of logic are the law of non-contradiction, law of identity, and law of excluded middle. Right? Like getting into each one of them is a whole conversation on itself. But like based on these rules, you would have to concede that morality is real, right?
Okay.
And if you agree that morality is real, you have no logical grounding for morality besides God. So I don't know how to say it in English. חוק השלילה. But basically, I'll explain it.
The elimination rule.
Yeah, by dismissing any other possible explanation within the realm of logical possibilities to justification of morality as a concept, you have to agree that the only grounding for it is God. That's how I would go about it. I feel like she dropped.
Oh, I don't know what happened.
Maybe she disconnected. I don't know. But yeah, anyway, I'll wrap it up. I'm greatly appreciative of you hosting me. So.
Oh, no problem. We got really off into the weeds, into a lot of different subjects I didn't originally come here to talk about, but I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. I learned a lot. Thank you so much, and you're welcome anytime.
Yeah, sure. If there's anything you want to talk to me about regarding the subject you're interested in, I would be happy to do so.
It's late. I actually wanted to talk to Avital, but she dropped for some reason. I think we pretty much talked about what we wanted to talk about, and then I think we agree on a lot of things.
It sounds almost like you're being a leftist. Maybe we can convert you to the left.
No. No, I am extreme on the right. I'm a Ben Gavir person. So I want to understand the mindset of the people from the left and liberal Jews and people that are not for this deal or not for Bibi. Like, I want to understand it. So I'm willing to listen to your point of view. And
well, actually, I don't really want to spend a lot of time on arguing because I want to go to sleep as well. But maybe I have like a couple of quick questions that you can answer.
Okay, go ahead.
Would you support the genocide of Palestinians?
Would I support there is no genocide of Palestinians.
No, I'm not saying there is. I'm asking, would you support one?
No. I just want them to all go away.
Yeah, so would you call it ethnic cleansing, or how would you describe that?
I wouldn't call it ethnic cleansing because it's not because they're so-called Palestinians that I want them gone. It's because they want to kill us. That's why. Everybody that wants to kill us needs to go. That's
what
it.
about the Palestinians who don't want to kill us? Can they stay?
Sure. Yes, I'm willing to do that. But they have to be Zionists. They have to be willing to accept that we are going to be in control and this is going to be a Jewish state.
Well, the problem with this, well, you know what, I'll not go into my position. So you're not supportive of like genocide as a whole, right?
No.
How do you feel about like statements from like members of the Ben Gvir party that like say we should nuke Gaza and stuff like that?
I think it was just a little sarcastic. I don't think it was like literal. I mean, in the moment after October 7th, I think you can understand.
It was quite a bit later after the October 7th. Like the statement about nuking them, or like statements about the fact that there are no innocent people in Gaza.
There are no innocent people in Gaza. Let me tell you. If even the ones that don't support Hamas directly, they still do not want to be ruled by Israel. They would rather have the PA in charge. They want some form of Arab rule, and those Arab rules are going to support terrorism.
Okay, sure. So they're guilty of morally supporting terrorism. Right?
Yes.
And so if they're not innocent, what should be their punishment?
Leave. They should all leave.
Expulsion.
Yes. The Muslims have been doing it to Jews since the beginning of Islam. And now all of a sudden, now we want to do it and it's bad. Like, explain that to me.
Explain what?
That if it was the other way around, they don't have a problem expelling us and ethnically cleansing us out of their land. That's what they continually, overtly say that's what they want to do.
Some of them, yeah.
So why is it all of a sudden bad when we want to do it?
Well, I can answer this question if you can kind of answer my analogy, because I think I have a good analogy.
Okay.
Let's say I want to, I can say this word on TikTok as well, non-consensually make love to a woman, right?
Okay.
And I do it. I actually do it. And then her brother wants to avenge me and do the exact same thing to my sister. Is he doing something wrong for doing the same thing for my sister?
but you would have to cite something from the Torah that it's actually bad to ethnically cleanse people, when it's actually like genocide is actually promoted in the Torah when the Israelites first come into the land to genocide all the Canaanites.
Well, I disagree that it was a genocide, but I don't want to, like, again, derail the conversations. But very easily you can, like, derail the subject.
Because if it were the Arabs have been ethnically cleansing Jews just because we are Jews, not because we did anything to them. Do you understand the difference?
Yeah, I don't think there is a difference, and let me tell you why. Because I think Palestinians ground their claim to this land and their will to expel us, right, in their Palestinian identity, in their Palestinian ethnic identity. So when you want to expel them, you expel them exactly for this reason of them holding this ethnic identity that challenges your claim to the land. So,
but it's not a real. It's a fake ethnicity. They are not ethnically Palestinians.
Okay,
they're Arabs.
So nationality, I guess, national cleansing.
Call it what you want. We wouldn't have it.
Sure.
I don't have a problem as long as they don't have a problem sharing the land and us being in control of our God-given land that it says not just in the Torah but in the Quran. Okay, and so they
know what they say, right? You know what
they
say.
know that this land belongs to us. They don't want to give it to us.
I don't think they do. I don't think they do. You know what they say usually in this way. Like, it's not my position, but I can, like, argue from their position. They will say you're not actual real Jews, especially the Ashkenazi European Jews.
Right.
That's their position. So they don't consider you as the same people they were talking about in the Torah.
Right. So that my solution is we need to become the real Jews. We need to become more religious as a country. We need to follow Jewish law as a country, and we need to build a temple. And then they will respect us.
Wait, you want to build the temple before the Messiah?
My feeling on that is that the Messiah that everybody's looking for is not going to come. We're not looking for this person that everybody thinks is going to come. It's going to come about in a different way. Like
but in a different way? Like, not physically?
No, King David was the Messiah. No, he was a Messiah, considered the Messiah.
Was he?
Yes, because he defeated our enemies and brought us all together to form a coherent nation.
But we were already the nation under Shaul.
No, because it was divided, because Shaul wasn't following what he was supposed to be doing under God.
Yeah, but the nation was unified. Like, it was a country with a king and all.
For a time, until David showed up.
Well, yeah, but you're saying he unified the people. I'm saying the people were already the country. He just dethroned the government and established himself as a king. So I'm just saying, like, the phrasing of it, like,
okay,
unified the people is not exactly accurate.
When you think of the Messiah David is a prototype Messiah. This is what we're looking for. When the Maccabees fought off the Greeks and rebuilt and rededicated the temple, the Maccabees were considered a Messiah person. They fought off our enemies and got us together to worship back in the temple. That's what we're looking for.
So can I just ask you, like, a theoretical question? Like, if Bibi tomorrow, right, he would defeat all of our enemies and decide he's going to build the third temple, would you consider Bibi the Messiah?
Yes, in a sense, but Bibi won't do that. He's already said Bibi is secular. He's not a religious. He's not going to build a temple. That's not part of who he is. We already know that. He's not going to do that.
Well, but in the hypothetical, he could have, like, tomorrow a divine revelation, or even let's say you will be tomorrow the prime minister of Israel for whatever reason, right? And you will do that. Would you consider yourself the Messiah if you destroy our enemies and build this third temple?
Whoever it is, it has to be a man. I believe it will be a man.
Okay, let's say it's me. Would you consider me a Messiah?
I think it would be like somebody would have to be in power, like a defense minister or somebody.
Yeah, let's say tomorrow I come to power and I destroy all of our enemies. I become the dictator of Israel. I destroy all of the enemies, build the third temple.
You would be the Messiah.
And I peace on the Al-Aqsa Mosque, let's say, for the sake of the argument, right? Am I the Messiah?
I would tend to think so.
Okay,
if you're following.
So now I want you to address me as Bar the Messiah, okay? Yeah, like, the trans people, like, they identify as whatever caste, or I identify as the Messiah from now on.
All right.
All right. Okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate the conversation. I appreciate the exchange. I guess have a good night.
You too. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Maila tov.